Overtime, harassment of the authorities by the boss, tax increases, and no signs of salary growth. All this was received by the guy. He worked for a black company and finally collapsed from overwork. And then, when he regained consciousness, he understood. He became completely different, like a little boy. The boy was surprised by his new appearance. Apparently, the former office employee was reborn into the body of some lord's son. Then he started spending wonderful days with his parents. It seemed to him that those terrible days of working in a black company did not exist at all. However, there was a massive demon attack that changed everything. His parents were the ones who didn't resist the demons, they just ran away from their possessions. Now the guy did not know the exact location of the escaped people. The lands of the Alencians were deserted. The guy became the current lord of these lands. His name was Ryle Alens. He was also left all alone in the territory. Thinking about it, Ryle just nodded to himself. He thought that by being reborn, the shackles of working in a black company with worse conditions would be lifted from him, but something worse was waiting for him. Namely, the work of a lord. Previously, Ryle also wanted to escape from these territories, but if he escapes, the lord of the lands himself, then the king will regard this as treason on his part and punish him. However, if everything stays that way, then the demons can come back and deal with him. But even if Ryle hides and the demons don't find him, the food will simply run out in the end, and he is being eliminated from hunger. The guy just wanted to live in peace and tranquility. From future bad opportunities, Ryle fell to his knees. He was completely confused and depressed by the situation. But he just had to survive. He must gather strength in the form of a large number of knights and also prepare food for the reserve. To begin with, Ryle decided to urgently gather people on his territory. Fortunately, he inherited something from his parents, namely a huge inheritance. Therefore, he didn't have to worry about money. Ryle wanted to ask the merchants about vacancies. But this remote area was just terrible. Near the land of Alens there was not only a dense forest, but also the land of demons and also the land of an influential lord. No one would dare to set foot in such dangerous territory. Ryle wanted to set up good working conditions. Therefore, he wrote exactly the opposite conditions to those in his previous black company. Soon, he put up a job search ad. It was written about the lack of overtime, good benefits, lunch break, and 2 days off a week. The crowd of people were surprised by the good conditions in the ad. The work proposed by Lord Ryle became very much discussed in the royal capital. For there were no such good conditions for work in this world. They all corresponded to the poor working conditions in black companies. Therefore, Ryle's working conditions were the best in this world, but most found it suspicious that the working conditions were too good. However, this was not surprising. A girl with long hair walked to the stand through the busy crowd. She saw that there were no rules written in the conditions, so the girl confidently tore the sheet from the stand. However, some, despite the suspicious conditions, still come to the lands of Ryle Alens, and it was a girl in a protective suit. After some time in the sunny land of Alens, Ryle stared ahead in disbelief and shock. It turns out that an immobilized monster appeared in front of him. It was a girl who knocked down a monster in the form of a dragon in front of him. Ryle was stunned by the picture he saw. He did not understand what was happening. The girl also found out that he was the lord of the Alensov lands. She was glad of his presence. Then the girl, having descended from the dragon, showed the guy a piece of paper. She saw his working conditions at the employment guild. The guy realized that she was holding his recruitment ad. He realized that this girl wanted to work for him. The girl agreed with his words and joyfully grabbed his palms. Ryle was embarrassed by her happy appearance. She looked very pretty. Ryle hired the girl, which surprised his interlocutor. After all, she thought she would have competitors. But it turns out that the girl was the only one who came to him. The guy was not surprised by this, because who would like to work for some unknown lord? However, he was very glad that at least someone had come. The dragon that the girl brought turned out to be a trophy. She hunted in an unexplored dense forest that was not far from his lands. Ryle was stunned that the girl was hunting a dragon alone in that place, but it didn't cost anything for an S-rank adventurer. The guy was stunned that his new subordinate was a representative of the S-rank. The girl was a former S-rank adventurer nicknamed Ellen's Sword. Ryle found this nickname familiar. It is comparable in power to 2 armies. The guy was happy that such a cool person came to him. He was worried that she would change her mind. After all, he did not know if she would be able to move to these territories. But the girl was fine. She was in these lands for the reason that such offers could not be found. The guy asked her if she was originally an adventurer, not for money. She was originally a low-ranking adventurer. Even high-ranking adventurers get into trouble. The guy understood her words. Even S-rank adventurers have hard times. In any case, he appreciated that she would work in this place. There were no people on his land at the moment, so she could choose any specialization. No one lived in this province because of the demon attack. Because of this, his parents, the former lords of these territories, were destroyed and all the other people fled. That's why Ryle was gathering people again. Then, the girl chose to specialize in hunting demons. Her hunting would have helped a lot, as the earth was under threat of a demon attack. The guy was happy, then he introduced himself to the girl as Lord Alentz, but she didn't care about his formalities. Therefore, Ryle hesitated and fully introduced himself as the lord of the local lands, Ryle Alentz. The girl's name was Helen Lawrence. She was glad to meet the guy. After getting to know each other, they said goodbye to rest after the meeting. The next day, the guy and the girl met again and greeted each other. Helen was going hunting, but Ryle was worried about something. He wanted to go hunting with Helen. However, the girl doubted his competence. The guy considered his main task to look at Helen in the process of work. The Lord's job is to assign the right places, people, and tasks. Ryle did not doubt Helen. The girl soon allowed the guy to be present at the hunt. She also warned him that she didn't know how to defend well. The guy and the girl moved in the direction of the dense forest. They were going on a long-awaited hunt. After a while, they found themselves in a dense forest. The whole area was surrounded by an unpleasant dark fog in places. Ryle and Helen were moving along the path. The guy noticed the creepy look of the place. Helen saw the guy's tension. She thought he was afraid. Ryle did not deny, but did not openly agree with her assumption. Suddenly, Helen felt something. She immediately covered the guy and picked up her weapon. With a gloomy look, she was looking somewhere to the side. Ryle was stunned by this. But the girl, having already swung her weapon, moved forward straight into the bushes. Soon, there was a sound of impact in the bushes. The guy didn't understand what was going on. After a while, a girl with a happy expression came out of the bushes. She overcame the monster hiding in the bushes and pulled it out quite nicely, showing it to the guy. It was the A-rank Wolf King. The guy was delighted that she was able to defeat a demon of such rank. Helen noticed that there were many high-ranking demons in this forest. She also wanted to ask the guy what to do with defeated monsters. So far, the Adventurers Guild has been buying them from her. She came here before the guild disappeared. Therefore, Helen would appreciate it if the guy bought the defeated monsters instead. Ryle realized that selling defeated demons was a significant source of income. He suggested that the girl leave it in place and then sell it to some merchant. The guy will give her most of the proceeds and take the rest for himself for mediation and storage of demons. The girl looked at the guy with a gloomy look. She asked the guy about the percentage of her earnings. It seemed to Ryle that Helen was unhappy with his offer. Therefore, he also offered her a monthly payment of 30 silver coins, as it was written in the advertisement. But the girl still looked at the guy gloomily. She asked him about 30 extra coins. Therefore, Ryle was stunned to think that he had offered her too low a price. However, a person could quite realistically live for a whole month on 20 silver coins. Ryle was puzzled. He was thinking about the situation. After all, she was a former S-rank adventurer. Therefore, the payment should be even more. Helen thought he was joking with her. His suggestions were too good to be true. She didn't understand what Ryle Alentz was thinking about. Soon, an unexpected sound sounded. Someone sensed their presence by their scent and headed towards them. The girl, taking an attacking pose, looked towards the monsters. She asked the guy to stay a little longer. After a while, the entire crowd of monsters were defeated. Among them were 2 A-rank wyverns, 3 wolf kings of the same rank, and 3 B-rank venomous snakes. It was a good catch for Helen. Ryle was shocked to realize the power of an S-rank adventurer. He realized that although he had learned fencing, he was not up to the girl's strength. Helen was truly strong. She had been training since she was a child. The guy did not understand why the girl went to work for him with such force. After all, she earned a lot in order not to work in this place. But it turns out that adventurers spend a lot of money. They paid all the costs of accommodation and transport for the adventurers themselves. An adventurer's life consists only of weapons and armor. They had no time to rest. The guy understood her words. Ryle was thinking about paying for the girl's weapons and armor. He had heard that good companies provided the latest technology for employees, delicious free lunches and entertainment at their expense. The guy would like to work in such a place. Therefore, he will make the Alentsov land an enviable territory. If they work in better conditions, even more people will gather on his land. Ryle informed Helen that he would cover her expenses for armor and weapons. The girl was surprised by his words, but it was his job as a lord to provide for her. Helen didn't agree with him because the guy didn't even know the cost of these things. However, Ryle continued, if it reduces the chance of Helen being injured, then he will do it. From his confident words, the girl was confused. She screamed with a reddened face that she couldn't believe it. Helen thought the guy was doing everything to make fun of her. She recalled his former proposals. The guy offered her 80% of the revenue from the demons, and she received only half in the guild. Moreover, she had to adhere to various rules in the guild, but he didn't have any rules, and Ryle also promised her an additional fee of 30 silver coins. The girl did not understand what he was up to. Ryle was stunned that Helen still didn't trust him. Because the conditions were too good, she considered him suspicious and doubted him and his working conditions. The guy explained to the girl that it was a misunderstanding. He only wanted people to come to the lands of the Alencians. She might not believe him, but Ryle was familiar with their suffering of someone who was just being used. That's why he appreciated human labor. People are irreplaceable. Helen is the only Helen. Ryle didn't want her to get hurt. He didn't want her to be liquidated. Therefore, he will do everything possible to ensure that none of this happens. The guy with a smile told her that he wanted the one who came to these lands to live peacefully and without problems. Helen looked at the other man with admiration. She was sorry that she doubted Ryle. From now on, she would spare no effort to protect him. The girl bowed and swore an oath to the stunned Ryle. He was looking at her with flushed cheeks. Helen always had a definite plan for life. She lived in harsh conditions, but when she saw that ad, she changed her mind. She wanted the freedom she had in the good old days again. She had never imagined that she would meet such a lord. This was the job she was looking for. Ryle had told her that she didn't need to be so polite to him. She wasn't friends with that, Helen agreed with him. The guy thanked the girl again. They had had enough hunting for today, so they were going home. Ryle wasn't sure if they could carry the demons. The girl was sure that they would be able to carry all the defeated demons. They could link a wyvern and a royal wolf. The guy felt wild because they were using venomous snakes as ropes. But he was thinking about it too. Thanks to Helen, Ryle felt he could handle it. Helen was grateful to him for starting a new life. Alens hoped that more and more people would come to his lands. Helen wasn't worried about that. With such good conditions, people will come soon. The guy and the girl, dragging the defeated monsters, cheerfully headed towards the land of Alensov. Meanwhile, a horse cart was going somewhere. Someone appeared from the cloth-covered wagon. The unknown person managed to get to the place he needed. Holding Ryle's ad in her hands, the girl looked at the ad happily. She was sure that she would be hired too. The cart soon drove into the territory of Alens. The name of the territory, its owner, Ryle Alens, and the first resident, Helen Lawrence, were written on the sign that greeted them. He worked in a black company with poor conditions and eventually collapsed from overwork. And when the guy woke up, it turned out that he was reborn in the body of the Lord's son. Then he led a happy and carefree life for a while, but one day their lands were attacked by demons, his parents ran away, and the territories were deserted. All that was left were the large-scale possessions and him, their new lord. The guy understood that inaction would destroy him, therefore he chose the path of life. The way of life, in which he must gather people to his lands of Alensa, offering them excellent conditions. Offering a job in this way was also effective. After all, the number of people on his lands has increased. It was Helen Lawrence, an S-rank adventurer. Helen enjoyed the delicious meal with pleasure. She was happy that she could now eat such great food. Coming to this place was the right decision, even though Ryle cooked something weird. But if she liked it so much, then he can cook more. The girl was glad of his offer. The guy was still lonely, but now he could at least talk to someone. He hoped that more people would follow Helen's example and come to these lands. Suddenly, someone called out to Lord Ryle. Someone came to them. It was an elderly man. He had brought food and basic necessities with him. Ryle wasn't surprised by his appearance. He was familiar with the man. He was an employee of a music company. The man was familiar with Ryle's parents. The guy gave him a job. Ryle introduced a man to a girl. She confidently introduced herself to the man as the first citizen in the territory of Alens. Ryle pointed out to her that she had crumbs around her mouth after eating. The girl began to put them away with embarrassment, but her name seemed familiar to the man. He remembered with shock that the girl was the Sword of Helen. Helen agreed with his words. At the moment she was responsible for trapping demons. The man wanted to find out from Ryle what remedy he had used so that Helen herself would join him. The guy thought about it and told the interlocutor that he just offered a great job. And in the end, it turned out well that Helen arrived at his place. For the girl, it seemed like fate to come to the Lord of Rila. The man thought about the guy's words with disbelief. He couldn't believe that she had come only because of the good conditions. The job was really great, but would Helen stay just for that? Ryle informed the man to acquire their demons. After a while, the guy got a staggering price for him, as many as 200 gold coins for defeated monsters. He was shocked that he could get so much money for the demons. But they were all of high rank and in excellent condition. 200 gold coins were enough to easily live and not work for the rest of your life. Ryle was stunned that he could earn so much in just a few days. And all thanks to the fact that the guy now has Helen. Ryle thanked the girl for her existence, which made her feel embarrassed. While they were making a deal with the man, someone was struggling to get out of the cart. The man informed Ryle that he would bring people with him next time. The unknown girl was able to get out of the cart. Ryle was very happy with the man's offer because it meant that new people would appear on his land. The unknown girl quietly ran away somewhere. Ryle suggested to his friend to open a music institution. If the population grows, it will be necessary. Of course, he guaranteed that the work would be on the same terms. The man was surprised by this. The guy didn't think the conditions were bad, but because of the man's reaction, he thought about it. The employee decided to take the choice of people seriously. Then he and Helen wanted to load the demons into the man's cart. The employee wanted to refuse their help, but the guy made a decision. Together they will cope faster with carrying the bodies of defeated monsters. Soon after loading the demons into the wagon, Rila's uncle departed. The guy and the girl said goodbye to him. Ryle thanked him for his support. The man noticed with a smile that Ryle was different from his parents. Maybe that's why he attracted Helen. A man would love to keep dealing with him. A good Lord Ryle pays a lot. Then he remembered that he had forgotten to tell about the missing saint from the church. However, he doubted that he would be able to reach such remote lands as the land of Valence. After the man's departure, the guy and the girl were going hunting. Helen wanted to hunt as much as possible so that there would be money. Suddenly, there was a sudden rustle in the bushes. To the boy's dismay, Helen turned sharply in the direction of the rustle. She heard a sound and realized that someone was hiding in the bushes, but the stranger didn't want to come out. Helen, grabbing the handle of her weapon, threatened the unknown, to which he panicked. It was the girl who was hiding in the man's carriage. Helen looked at her menacingly. She wanted to know the reason why she was hiding in the bushes. Ryle didn't understand why such a little girl came alone. The girl in the robe shyly showed them Ryle's advertisement for a staff search. The guy realized that she was for the sake of getting a job. The girl agreed with him, nodding at him sheepishly. Ryle had already wanted to hire the girl, but Helen was unhappy with this. She still didn't trust the stranger. There was a risk that she was a thief, from which the stranger frantically began to deny, waving her head to the side. However, in any case, it had to be checked at least once. Then the guy decided to interview the girl. The stranger was all tense with excitement, but she was grateful. So the guy tried to calm her down. But she was afraid of Helen's presence. She stood next to them, still not trusting the stranger. Helen considered the girl dangerous. She could attack them at any second. Ryle didn't think so. Then the girl introduced herself to them, calling herself Lula. Suddenly, she stopped talking and changed her mind about her previous name, introducing herself only to Lu again. The guy realized that the girl wanted to hide her true identity, but he thought she had her reasons. The girl told them that she likes to read books and has a little healing magic. Ryle thought that she was a sorceress healer. He asked Helen's opinion about the presence of a healer in their lands. However, she was thoughtful. When Helen saw Lu, she had the feeling that she had seen her somewhere. Lu shuddered at the girl's words. Helen began to think of places where she might have seen a stranger. The girl, trembling all over, wrapped herself more tightly in her robe. She tried to change the subject by asking the guy for additional questions. Ryle asked about the choice of job specialization. Lu wanted to avoid appearing in front of a lot of people. She could do something useful. Helen and Ryle looked at each other and nodded. Alens did not consider Lu a bad person. It was unlikely that she could cause any harm to them. Helen was waiting for any decision of the guy. She was not the lord of these lands. Therefore, Ryle decided to hire Lu. From now on, she will be a resident of his lands. Lu looked at the lord in disbelief. Then Ryle introduced himself to the new resident. He was Lord Ryle, and Helen was in charge of the demon hunt. Lu realized that she was accepted. She lit up with happiness. Ryle got down on one knee and offered his hand to the girl. From now on, he would take care of her. The girl was mesmerized by the guy's palm that appeared in front of her. The guy thought that she didn't like handshakes. Lu, waking up from her feelings, immediately took the guy's hand. She is looking forward to the start of their collaboration. First, they had to decide what position she would take. Since she had healing magic, Ryle asked her to treat the wounded, but she was afraid of large crowds of people, so she was rather not sociable. Lu felt a little ashamed of her lies, but she agreed with the words of the Lord. The girl apologized to the Lord for such a selfish request. Ryle was embarrassed by such politeness. Helen told him that Ryle had neither honor nor dignity. therefore he can be called by his first name, making him resent it. The guy was unhappy with the girl's words, and a small skirmish began between them. Lu was surprised that Helen, a subordinate of the Lord, was teasing him. Lu giggled at the strange situation that had arisen. Ryle noticed this. He told the girl to just call him by his first name. Lu frantically shook her head. She couldn't call out her lord's name. Soon the group left the office. The guy asked about Lu's life. On the way, the girl noticed a large number of books in the room. It was accounting. There were no books from libraries. Lu wanted to see their contents anyway. The documents were kept from the time when the guy's parents still ruled. Therefore, he had no idea what they were about. Suddenly, the girl told him that his parents were wonderful lords. Ryle thought she knew them, but she didn't. The documents recorded a large number of expenses aimed at the inhabitants of these lands. Only good lords do that. This is different from what Lu knew. At that time, more than 100 people lived in these lands. The lands of Alence were lively, and his parents, former lords, were respected by everyone. This is different from what it is now. Helen thought Ryle was a wonderful lord too. After all, she did not provide excellent conditions for employees. There are no overtime and work on holidays, free housing, and a good salary of 30 silver coins. And the most important thing for her was delicious food. Helen didn't know where else to find such a thing. Ryle was a lord, not a cook. In addition, he did not have any account book at his disposal at the moment. Therefore, I did not know how long I could continue like this. Helen suggested that Lu start keeping a ledger. Ryle was surprised that Lu was able to keep records correctly. Then she will hardly have to communicate with people. Lu didn't know how to behave, but she wanted to try. From that moment on, the girl became an accountant. She was glad of her new position. The guy wanted to leave already. He still had things to do as soon as possible. The girl also asked to look at something else. Ryle gave her permission. She doesn't have to ask for permission next time. The girl really wanted to see the contents of the books, and she was allowed to stay in the study until sunset. She enjoyed looking through the accounting information. She liked that she could do something. Suddenly, a gloomy appearance appeared behind her. The man with the mustache was looking for Lulazia. The girl turned to the unknown man in fright. The same one continued to speak. The believers were waiting for her. The man was calling Lu home. But Lu shouted seriously, saying that she would stay and work in this place. After all, she liked this place and the Lord entrusted her with the job. The man realized that she would not return. His voice changed to a threatening tone. To him, she was a simple believer who should only smile. Then he hinted at the voices of those who were looking for her. Immediately, Lulasha heard a rasping voice. And behind him, a huge number of pleading believers who were called the saint, namely, her. She was born to live like a saint. For a man, she couldn't have been born for anything else. The girl desperately denied his words. At the same moment, panting, Lu woke up from a nightmare in her room. The girl's heavy breathing filled the silence of the room. Ryle, being outside, was thoughtful. He was looking at the ground with weeds. New people were coming, so he needed to clean up this place. The guy noticed Lu approaching. He greeted her with a smile. Ryle wanted to work on the garden. First he needed to weed. Lu was surprised that the Lord himself would do this, but he was just doing his job. The girl offered her help, but he refused. After all, her specialty was in accounting. However, Lu wanted to try. Until now, she had not been allowed to mess with the soil. Soon the guy allowed her to help him. He was surprised that the girl was not allowed to play with the soil. Most likely, she was heavily guarded. Lu frowned for a moment and did not answer. All she cared about was whether it was worth it. The guy realized that he shouldn't have brought up this topic. After all, the atmosphere became tense after his words. Then he noticed that the girl was hot when weeding, so Ryle suggested that she take off her hood. Lu refused and continued to pull out the weeds. She was comfortable in it. The guy was embarrassed. He thought that the girl had not forgiven him. Suddenly, the girl called the guy, which made the guy flinch and pay attention to her. Lu informed him that because of the acidic soil, weeds grow in this place. Therefore, for a better harvest after processing the beds, it will be useful to fertilize them. Ryle was delighted with the girl's knowledge. Lu sheepishly accepted his admiration. She reads different books all the time, that's why she found out about it. Ryle was glad that she had come here. Lu was glad too, she wasn't forced to appear in front of crowds here. Ryle thought that the girl was being punished for losing the game. The guy promised her that Lu would only do what she wanted here. At the moment, Lu is just Lu. Suddenly, he felt a pleasant breeze. Ryle enjoyed the cooling wind with pleasure. Then he invited the girl to join him. Lu agreed and got up from her seat. She thought she would live her whole life as a saint. However, maybe she will succeed in a different way if she stays in this place with Ryle. The girl took off her hood and enjoyed the pleasant breeze with a smile. Her life will change. The girl happily noticed the incredible pleasantness of the wind, but then she immediately fell, unable to stay in place. Ryle managed to catch the girl. Lou was embarrassed by his close presence. She apologized to Ryle with embarrassment, calling him by name, but she immediately came to her senses and apologized. The girl was already used to calling him that. The guy didn't mind her calling him by his first name. Helen, approaching the guy and the girl, noticed their confused situation. Ryle explained that he and Lou were trying to weed the beds. The girl was intrigued and wanted to join in. Meanwhile, from afar, someone was looking towards the lands of Valence. The previous lords were eliminated, leaving only their son. That's how you can lose everything quickly. It turns out that these demons were heading to the land of Valence. It's time for them to expand the domain of the Demon King. A demon with wings and a pack of bestial wolves were moving towards the lands. Ryle and the two girls were unaware of the approaching danger. The guy was plowing the beds. He remembered his beginning, that he was reborn and became Lord Valence. In order to attract residents to their lands, Ryle offered good conditions to people. As a result, Helen, who was a former adventurer and accountant, Lou came to him. The guy thought that in the future, the population of his lands would become even larger. He seems to be doing a good job of being a lord. Ryle was delighted at the thought and continued to dig. Helen swung the hoe and prepared to dig up. It was hard for Lou to even lift the hoe. She was trying with all her might to weed the ground. There was a sound of impact. Pieces of soil flew in different directions. Ryle and Lou were stunned by the sudden occurrence. They didn't know what had happened or why the earth had suddenly exploded. It turned out to be Helen. The girl thought she was done with the weeding. Ryle was surprised by the resulting big hole. Lou promised the guy to do everything in her power, but the guy realized that Helen's strength was high. Therefore, only he and Lou will weed the land. Helen, pouting, was displeased with this. She instantly rose from the hole and approached them. The girl asked me to give her another try. She'll do it right this time. Ryle wanted to refuse, but the girl did not let him do it. Therefore, accepting her enthusiasm, he gave the girl a taste of it once. However, nothing has changed. The earth flew apart again. In the end, plowing didn't suit Helen. Helen informed him that she had put in less effort this time. This is what Lou noticed. She pointed the guy towards the ground. The second hole was smaller than the first. But it didn't do Ryle any good. Lou was glad that Helen was making progress, which made the girl happy. Helen turned around and told Ryle to assess her progress. She would be able to adjust soon. In that case, Ryle and Lou will still work on weeding the land and Helen will improve on the side. They didn't need holes in other fields. They went to the garden, leaving Helen to train. She believed that she would succeed. Ryle still needed to bury those holes later. A guy and a girl were plowing the ground. Lou was happy, and Ryle noticed that she looked happy. He said this to the girl, making her flinch. From which Lou immediately apologized. She thought that it was impossible to have fun at work. But it wasn't like that. The guy was just curious because the girl was enjoying plowing the land. Lou had never done anything like this before, which is why she was so happy. The girl thought with embarrassment that it was strange. Ryle didn't agree with that. Suddenly Helen came with good news. She finally managed to plow the land. Holding the hoe with 2 fingers, she did not form a hole. In that case, Ryle invited Helen to join them. Like Lou said, it's more fun to work together. Before his rebirth, Ryle had never experienced this feeling. Suddenly, Helen, Ryle, and Lou felt an unknown feeling. Everyone noticed something. Helen turned away, frowning. She ordered the unknown persons to leave. Meanwhile, Ryle noticed a worm in the ground. He looked at the tense girls in disbelief. The guy didn't understand what was going on. The monsters were rushing towards them. A demon with wings, sitting on the back of the Wolf King, was heading towards them. Ryle realized that they were in a dangerous situation. He looked at the approaching demons with shock. The demon with wings gave an order to his subordinates. They had to get rid of the son of the former lords. Then they will assign these territories to the Demon King. He saw the silhouette of a guy in the distance and pointed at him. Suddenly, the demon with wings noticed that the guy was not alone, but he thought they were just farmers who tilled the fields. Therefore, he ordered them all to be taken. Ryle realized that a demon attack was taking place. They came to his lands from the west. He told the girls to run, because it was dangerous to stay in place. But Helen had a different opinion about that. They didn't have to run away. With so many enemies, she could easily handle them. The girl began to twist the instrument in her hands. Ryle wanted to stop her, but for Helen it was her specialty, catching demons. The demons were confidently heading in their direction. The girl looked at them with a gloomy look. She would destroy them with a hoe. The monsters were approaching them. They wanted to fight. Helen was calm and did nothing. The demon with wings didn't understand why they just stood there and didn't run away. He thought they were fools. The bestial wolves attacked the people, but they didn't even have time to touch them before they disappeared into a huge hole. The demon with wings stared at it dumbfounded. He didn't understand what was going on here. Therefore, the enemy flew up to look at the situation from above. To his great shock, he saw a huge deep hole in which his fighters were located. The monsters fell into the hole and couldn't get out. The enemy did not understand where the hole could have come from in such a place. Therefore, the demon thought that they were expecting an attack and had time to prepare. However, the number of people was small, so he was even more scared. Ryle realized uncomfortably that Helen's hole had been useful to them in this situation. Helen swung the hoe again. She attacked the monsters with ease, and with each blow, the number of defeated demons increased. At the end, the girl grinned. She didn't feel tired. The winged demon was shocked by her strength. After all, she fought them with just a hoe, such a simple weapon. The cries of the defeated monsters resounded for some time. The guy and the girl were silent for a moment. Lou and Ryle looked at the picture they saw with shock. Lou thought she was in a dream, but the guy didn't think so. The demon could only annoyingly order his subordinates to go back. The bestial wolves, howling, swiftly fled from the lands of Alents. The annoyed demon miscalculated his plan. The girl was too strong. Because of this, he hated the current Lord Alents. The monsters were running back to themselves. Helen realized with a grin that it was already over. She wasn't tired after the fight. Ryle and Lou ran up to her. They wanted to know her condition, but she was fine. They thanked Helen for their rescue. Ryle told the girl not to overdo it. If she is in danger, she can always escape. Helen didn't think so. While she was here, no one needed to run away. Ryle knew that Helen was strong. He trusted her. Therefore, Helen can take as much land as she needs. After all, they had only one. Lou and Ryle looked at her with a smile, which made Helen embarrassed. They shouldn't have worried about her, because she would be able to defeat everyone. The girl smiled. Anyway, the attacking demons were weak. Demons of high rank can only be found in dense forests. It will be enough to protect only these lands. Ryle thought of using the hole created by Helen as a defensive moat, but for now it was better for them to finish. The sun was already setting. After a while, Ryle enthusiastically offered the girls something to cook for them, for doing such a great job. Lou and Helen looked at each other with smiles. Lou didn't think their lord should cook for them. Helen thought on the contrary, Ryle cooks very well. At the same time, someone was submitting a report in the gloomy castle. It was an escaped demon with wings. He informed someone that he had recently gone to explore the lands of Alents. It turned out that they possessed powerful, incredible strength, with enough power to defeat his subordinates, the bestial wolves, and they also gathered more people. The demon gave his master a leaflet with an announcement of the search for staff. It was dangerous for them to leave everything like that. The demon invited the Demon King to visit there himself. A gloomy man in dark clothes looked at the advertisement with interest. He was interested in Lord Alents. Meanwhile, the capital's royal guild is busy. A crowd gathered near the guild employee. At Lord Alents's request, one person had to go to him, but his lands were quite far away, and it seemed to everyone that it was not profitable and quite dangerous. As expected, everyone was wary of this. The man couldn't do anything about it. Suddenly, a raised hand appeared in the crowd. The one who picked her up had bestial cat ears and a long tail. A girl named Naughty enthusiastically wanted to take up the job offered. She was jumping up and down joyfully and wanted to get a job. But her friends wanted to stop her because the job was dangerous. Naughty didn't think so. She thought that the Lord would not offer a bad job. It will definitely be a good job. The man agreed with her. Lord Ryle has guaranteed all the bonuses listed in the announcement. In fact, he thought there would be more applicants. People were shocked to realize that the working conditions would be the same as in the ad. They looked at Naughty with envy. The girl told them that sometimes it was necessary to take risks. That's how merchants do it. The man, taking out a huge stack of documents, told the girl to choose 10 people from those who wanted to, and then take them to the lands of Alents. The girl was shocked by the number of documents. It turns out that about 600 people have signed up for work. Naughty was thinking about working for the master, but she didn't have to do it. The girl felt as if she was being forced to work. She began to search for people with diligence. As a merchant, she can do everything. Suddenly, the girl found an interesting resume. She turned to the man and showed him the document. The employee realized that another interesting person was waiting for them. If this is true, then it was very cool. Obviously, there will be some very interesting people there. The man was sitting wearily in his chair. He believed that the job given to him would never end. He couldn't do it anymore. He needed to find another job with good conditions than in his current company, a normal job without overtime and with a normal salary. However, he did not know if such works existed at all. Suddenly, a voice was heard calling Mr. Ryle. Lu's face appeared in front of him. It turned out that the guy was dreaming about his past life. He remembered with realization that he had been reborn. Therefore, Ryle greeted the girl with joy. Lu was surprised and confused by his sudden smile. Ryle realized that today was a day off, so Lu challenged herself and made him breakfast. A fragrant and delicious-looking breakfast was waiting for the guy. Ryle was glad of that. Lu was cooking for the first time, so she couldn't treat the guy to something interesting. Helen was already waiting for them at the table. They greeted each other. It turns out that Helen called Lu because it's more fun to eat together. Ryle agreed with the girl and wished everyone a pleasant appetite. When he worked hard at the company, he couldn't even afford such a breakfast. It was good for the guy that he was reborn. He praised the girl for her cooking. Suddenly, someone unknown wished them good morning. It was Naughty. She came from the employment guild. Ryle happily accepted the girl. Naughty recognized the guy as Lord Ryle. She informed him that her master had sent her to him, so they were going to open a store on the territory of Alents. The girl was looking forward to their cooperation. She asked the guy if he thought she was too young and inexperienced for this. Ryle was embarrassed by the question, but he didn't think so. Naughty continued. She announced to everyone that she would cope with her position. Self-confidence was a good quality. Naughty also informed him that she had brought new people. Then she called all the guys. A crowd of people greeted everyone. Ryle was happy with a lot of people. Naughty brought 10 people to the lands of Alents. Ryle thanked everyone for their presence and greeted everyone. Naughty smilingly told them that their lives depended on Mr. Ryle, therefore, they must be devoted to him. Which made some people scared for a moment. But the guy calmed them down. He introduced the newcomers to Helen, who was responsible for hunting demons. People were delighted by the presence of an S-rank adventurer. Ryle knew that Helen was a celebrity. Then he introduced them to Lu's accountant. The girl greeted everyone timidly. She seemed nice to everyone. Now it's the turn of the newcomers to tell their names and the positions they would like to occupy. Naughty wanted to leave this matter to herself. She'll figure it out. Therefore, Ryle welcomed her initiative and thanked the girl. Naughty was proud because she could easily handle it. Ryle agreed with the girl with a smile. He would be glad if everyone came like Naughty, which made the girl feel embarrassed. She told him with flushed cheeks that she still had to study and study with Ryle. The guy noticed that only 9 out of 10 people were present. Naughty was stunned by this. This could not happen. The girl began to frantically count people. She soon realized that there were really only 9 people present. She didn't know where another person had gone. Suddenly, quiet and calm footsteps were heard. The unknown man yawned in a relaxed manner. It was a guy. He was holding a big pillow in his hands. The guy turned out to be the 10th person from the group. Naughty indignantly dragged the guy to Ryle. Then they greeted each other. Ryle noticed a strange atmosphere around the guy. He was looking at Lu, and the girl noticed with concern that he was looking at her. The guy, looking at Lu, said that a lot of interesting people had gathered in this place. Ryle thought he was talking about Helen. Then Ryle wished everyone a rest. Almost all the houses were vacant, so they could choose anyone. The new residents were surprised that they would have houses. They stared at each other in shock. People were delighted to have their own house. Ryle also informed them that if they needed anything, he would provide for them. Everyone was happy. The guy with the pillow asked Ryle if they could really spend that much money. Ryle had a large reserve, so everything was fine. The guy accepted his words indifferently and calmly left. The new residents were happy to look for homes. Ryle, on the other hand, looked after the departing guy with surprise. He was calm, unlike the others. Naughty realized that the 10th person would be problematic. There are definitely no abilities. The next day, Ryle wanted to get to know the new ones better. He took a list of new residents with him. On the way, he met Naughty, and they greeted each other. The girl found out that he wanted to meet the new ones. She wanted to spend it. They would go through all the places where the newcomers were staying. Ryle thanked the girl for her help. The newcomers are well settled in their homes. Most of them have already started working. There were 5 people on the farm, 1 in the forge, and 3 demon hunters. 9 people in total. The only one left was Julius. He didn't even write down who he would like to work with, so they had to check with him. Soon they found the house of Julius, who chose a small house. Ryle knocked on the door, but no one answered. The door was open, so they went inside. Naughty joyfully entered the room but accidentally bumped into something. It turned out to be a guy lying down. Naughty thought with shock that he had been eliminated. But this was not the case. Julius was sleeping on a pillow on the floor. Yawning, he got up from the floor and wanted to know why they had come to him. Ryle wanted to know Julius' preferred job. He would try to satisfy his needs to the maximum. Then Julius would prefer to rest at home, but there was no such job. Naughty was outraged by the guy's words. But he was absolutely serious. Up to this point, Julius was constantly busy with work. He was already tired. That's why the guy came here for freedom. Ryle looked at him in surprise. Naughty was outraged by his words. She believed that you can't just relax at home and lie down. The girl expected support from the Lord, but Ryle allowed the guy to rest as long as he wanted, from which Naughty was stunned. Julius's words stirred Ryle's memories. He was still a long way from being a real lord. He used to work too hard. His body and mind couldn't stand it. He couldn't even imagine what fun was like. Suddenly, Julius will work again and become the same. It's better for him to just rest in the house. Naughty didn't understand how it was possible not to work at all. Ryle thought about the work that could be done just lying down. Julius looked at it in silence. But then I asked the guy why he became a lord if he had such a difficult past before. After all, the lord had a lot of work to do. It was because of his difficult past that Ryle did not want his residents to go through this. He also became a lord against his will. Ryle replaced his parents after their death. He thought that people would easily get ready to work with good conditions. And in the end, the guy met Helen, Lou, and everyone else. He was sure that everyone was looking for a place like this, including Ryle himself. By creating a place where people themselves want to work, he managed to gather a lot of residents. Ryle smiled and said that being a lord was quite fun and interesting, but you couldn't do it for fun. Julius informed him that there were many problems on the lands of Valence. Because of the previous workplace, such things made Julia uncomfortable. Ryle wanted to know that it was a job. It turns out that Julius was a lot of people, namely the king's advisor. It was funny to Ryle. Usually wise men act as advisors, but Julius was actually a real sage. Silence filled the room for a moment. Ryle stared at the guy in shock. He turned out to be a wise man. The guy couldn't believe it, because usually the sages looked like decrepit old men. Naughty was also surprised by this at first. The depth of knowledge of Julia was impressive. He is really very wise. The guy realized that Julius was a wise man. But the most amazing thing was that the sage himself came to him. Here it is, the power of working with good conditions. Ryle asked the sage about the shortcomings of his system. Julius agreed to help them. He started with the budget and asked Ryle about his money. The guy only had 500 gold coins, including the inheritance and the profit from the sale of demons. And in the future, they will need 30 silver coins for each inhabitant. Julius easily calculated that he would need 360 silver coins a year. Since there were 13 people living at the moment, 4,680 silver coins would be released per year, or about 47 gold coins. In addition to the salary, Ryle also supplied people with everything they needed, plus the cost of weapons, armor, and tools. There were quite a few people, so it was impossible to neglect these expenses. The Lord needs to have a clear understanding of the circulation of his funds. To manage the land properly, it was very important. Ryle hadn't thought about it. He realized that he was spending money easily. Now he will follow the advice of Julius. Ryle asked me to tell him more about the problems of his lands. Julius learned that the Lord's income comes only from buying and selling demons. Thanks to Helen, the guy had enough money to support all the residents. However, relying on one source of income was quite dangerous. They needed to figure this out. It was also necessary to think about external threats. Julius noticed that the lands had been attacked by demons. Demons were also not the only threat. To the south of these lands was the estate of a nobleman, about whom there are unpleasant rumors. Julius would not be surprised if they were also aiming to capture this territory. It was also necessary to be careful with the organizations from which people come. For example, the Adventurers Guild without Helen will suffer heavy losses. Ryle couldn't just be happy that so many people had come to him. Suddenly, the guy realized that Julius was indignant. He did not deny it. Julius will work with them as much as he wants to help protect these lands. Naughty didn't understand him because he wanted to rest first. The guy wanted to leave the house less. Therefore, Ryle decided to have Julius work from home. If Ryle has any questions about work, he will just come to Julius for advice. Of course, he will work until he gets tired. Advising Ryle and lying on the bed at the same time, Julius liked Ryle's idea. Naughty, on the other hand, was concerned about the Lord's gentle nature. The guy wanted the others to learn something from Julius, namely, do not forget to rest and not work too hard. Helen hunts every day under various pretexts. It will take some time. After all, it is very difficult to change human habits and thinking. Ryle didn't need to generalize to everyone had to adapt at their own pace. Ryle thanked Julius. He still had a lot of work to do, but the guy will try his best. Julius was sure that everything would work out for him. The guy was embarrassed by the sage's praise. He didn't think he was interested in anything, it was just his thoughts about the job. Julius considered his thoughts to be correct. After determining Julia's position, they could leave. Nadi indignantly ordered Julius not to give Ral too much trouble. The sage was also tired of talking and wanted to take a break. He quickly turned around and lay down on the pillow. Suddenly, Julius called out to Ryle. Without turning to face the guy, he informed him that he would be able to consult Ryle at any time. The guy smiled and accepted his words. Lying down, Julius also smiled. At this time in the land of demons, the demon with wings was worried that the demon king was visiting the lands of Alents alone. The man wanted to see everything for himself and make sure that the demon's story was true. And he was also interested in Ryle's application for a staff search. 2 whole days off a week, the man couldn't believe it. The lands of Alents seemed to him an interesting place. Helen and Lou were surprised that Julius was a great sage. The lands of Alents were a remote area surrounded by huge dense forests and lands of demons. Ryle was reborn and became the lord of these lands. The guy was going somewhere. At first he was all alone, but soon everything changed. Nadi and Lou were discussing something about goods. Ryle was exploring the surroundings of his lands. On the way, he met Helen and the hunters, who were having fun discussing something. The rest of the residents were happily walking down the street with their family. Ryle was glad that there were so many residents. The guy soon approached Julius's house, knocked, and entered the room. There he was met by Julius lying on a huge bed. Ryle was stunned by the presence of the bed. It turns out that Julius asked Nadi to order him a bed, and now, thanks to such a bed, he could lie in bed all day with even more comfort. Ryle came to the guy for advice. Recently, they talked about the employment of those who work. The guy, at Julius's request, tried to measure the number of their working hours and days off, but even so, people still work too much. He wanted to find a way out of this situation. Therefore, Julius suggested that Tong create a place for entertainment. In addition to work, you need to create a place for people where they can have fun. Then, everyone will be looking forward to the end of the working day. Just to rebuild this place, they will need both money and time. But if there is too much entertainment, then, on the contrary, working productivity will deteriorate dramatically. Therefore, everything had to be carefully thought out. Julius, on the other hand, had enough of a soft pillow and a cozy bed for complete happiness, but his entertainment wasn't for everyone. Therefore, Ryle will think in detail how this can be organized. The guy thanked Julius for the advice, then they said goodbye. Ryle was walking thoughtfully down the street. In one era, people only dreamed of ending their working day. Therefore, he hoped that he would be able to create conditions for people to relax. Only now he definitely needed someone who could lead this project. Suddenly, a man's silhouette appeared in front of the puzzled guy. Someone called out to the thoughtful Ryle. The Demon King looked at him gloomily. He asked Ryle if these were the lands of Alents. Ryle didn't know this man. Piercing eyes, tall stature, dressed all in black. The guy thought that he seemed to be very popular. Then Ryle noticed that the man had his job advertisement sheet. He was overjoyed. Ryle thought that this was the guy who would lead his project. The Demon King didn't understand what he was saying, which made Ryle think that he had made a mistake with his assumptions. The Demon King realized that the guy didn't understand who he was. According to some reports, this territory is inhabited by people who defeat demons with one blow, and it seems that there are people who are trapped in anticipation of an enemy attack from foreign territories. Moreover, for the Demon King, the vacancy announcement was considered suspicious. To make sure of this, he specifically came to investigate, but he got an unexpected reaction because he expected to see sudden attacks. Ryle thought the guy hadn't made up his mind yet. Then Ryle suggested that the guy in black clothes make a detour and inspect his territory. If he wants to become a resident of his estate, then Ryle can accompany and show him everything in this place. The Demon King thought it was a trap. He also thought that he hadn't really understood his true identity. In any case, it was a good way to scout the situation in these lands. Waving his cloak spectacularly, the guy gladly accepted the Lord's invitation. Ryle was surprised by the guy's strange movement. But then he introduced himself to him as the owner of these territories and asked the name of a stranger. The guy confidently told Ryle that he was the Demon King, Armadius Eglisk. Ryle was stunned by Eglisk's words and momentarily scared. But because he said it with full confidence that he was the king of demons, Ryle thought it was a joke, so he immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Ryle wondered what he meant. His name wasn't the Demon King, but Armadius Eglisk. The guy felt that he had misunderstood everything, so he calmed down. He asked the guy's permission to call him Mao. Eglisk thought Ryle was a strange man. After all, he found out that Eglisk is the king of demons and so openly calls him Mao. But he gave permission to the guy, assuming a strange pose again. Rylou awkwardly showed the possessions to the guy. To begin with, he wanted to show Mao the fields. Soon they were in a field, with weeded beds everywhere. Eglisk was surprised to notice that the field was much quieter than he had thought. The guy did not see the peasants for whom vacancies were open. Ryle called Kree and Ben, who were busily working on the beds. After their hail, Ryle wanted to introduce the men to the new resident. They realized that another person had come to the land of Alents. The guy introduced them to Mao, but people were scared by his gloomy aura. They awkwardly got to know him. Kree and Ben were uncomfortable. His presence gave them goosebumps. Mao noticed that they were not particularly strong. So someone else had slain all the demons with one blow. The Demon King thought that he might have been misinformed by his subordinates. Ryle wanted to know how the field was going. Due to the small number of people, they were currently mainly growing vegetables that could be harvested in a short time without any effort. At the same time, they planned to grow fruits that would be profitable, but it will take longer to harvest. Kree and Burr did everything in their power to contribute to the development of these territories. Ryle thanked them and told them to contact him in case of difficulty. Then they said goodbye, and Ryle and Mao walked on. Eglisk noticed that although they had low combat readiness, they coped well with agricultural work and also had impressive plans for the fields. Ryle was perplexed by his words about combat readiness. Eglisk noticed that they were nothing compared to his subordinates. They were unable to come up with any plan. Eglisk remembered how his subordinates had eaten the stock that was for 10 days. The guy got angry. They didn't even inform him about the attack on the territory in advance. Ryle was thinking about where they should go next. All the demon hunters were out hunting, and Ragudo the blacksmith had a day off. Eglisk stopped in surprise and asked Ryle about the weekend. It turns out that weekends actually existed. Ryle thought that the ad was suspicious and therefore did not believe the job description. He told Mao not to worry about it because everything that was written there was absolutely true. Each resident had 2 days off a week. Eglisk was stunned by this information. He was jealous that they had a weekend off. Trembling with envy, he covered his face and stood in a strange pose. The guy thought the obligatory weekend was great. He worked for so many years and didn't get a single day off. The guy remembered the fatigue from the large number of documents that he had to sort out. But Eglisk did not understand how one could successfully manage possessions with so many days off. Ryle mentioned Julius, who was in the house all the time. Eglisk, hearing his words, suddenly realized something for himself. He thought that the guy was locking all the residents in the house for the weekend to give them a break, and then they use their power to work so that they work hard. Ryle was surprised by Mao's terrible words. There's no way he's going to do that. Ryle explained to Mao that Julius does his work from home. When he comes to him, he is almost always at home. On his lands, the workplace varies depending on the type of activity. Eglisk was stunned by this. He was surprised at possessions with such rules, not to mention weekends. Ryle informed the guy that Julius's job was to be his advisor. Eglisk was surprised that he had an advisor who gave good advice. Julius has a huge amount of knowledge and always helps Ryle out with his advice. When Eglisk asks his subordinates for advice, he eventually has to decide everything himself. He remembered that he had previously wanted to form a food distribution system by cards, but after that, everyone just complained. The man remembered his subordinates. The Demon King was jealous of Ryle. He also wanted to have a good advisor. Then the Demon King came to his senses. He came to this place for the purpose of scouting the situation, and as a result, the further he was, the more fascinated he became by these possessions. Ryle called out to Mao. He wanted to know the guy's work preferences. He had no preference about his job. Therefore, Ryle told him that he was thinking about building a place for entertainment for his residents. Therefore, Ryle suggested that Mao take on such a job. He would have helped him a lot with that. Eglisk was surprised that he was doing this for the sake of his residents. For Ryle, it was important that they could rest and stop thinking about work. Eglisk thought about it. To distract himself from work, he often tried to forget himself over a drink in the evenings. Thanks to this, he still holds on. Ryle realized that Tom had had a hard time, but then he got an idea. The guy remembered the place with drinks, namely the tavern. The inn will be a place for entertainment. They had an inn that had not been used for a long time. It could be resuscitated, and everyone can gather in it. Ryle suggested that Mao become the manager of the inn. Eglisk was interested in his proposal. Only Tom had to work in the evening. Egliscu works best at this time. Ryle gave the guy a decision on what time the inn would close. Iglisk was surprised that he was able to decide how long he would work. But this has already been mentioned in the vacancy. The Demon King considered this job to be a paradise. Ryle agreed with him. Such were their working conditions. Iglisk stared at the guy, stunned. Then he nodded to himself. Finally, Iglisk understood what was happening in these lands. These domains are distinguished neither by demon hunters with incredible strength, nor by outcasts with traps, and a favorable atmosphere for the residents of this estate. Therefore, all talented residents can come together and work with enthusiasm. Even he, the Demon King, was charmed. He was completely fascinated by the working conditions. Smiling, Iglisk told him that the estate in these lands was wonderful. Ryle listened to his sudden words with surprise. Looking at the guy's satisfied face, Ryle was inspired and agreed with his words. Iglisk also noticed Ryle, who organized all this. The Demon King recognized him as an excellent owner of the estate, but there was still a lot of work ahead of him. Ryle asked Mal about the job decision, if he was willing to work with him. Iglisk considered it a good idea to become a resident of this estate. He wanted to shake the guy's hand already. But suddenly he remembered his subordinates who were enthusiastically calling their Demon King. The guy stopped, asking for forgiveness. He refused to become a resident of Ryle's estate. He had obligations that he couldn't give up. His subordinates were waiting for his return. Ryle stared at him dumbfounded, but then accepted the guy's words. There was nothing he could do about it. But Ryle didn't give up on Mal. If he changes his mind, then he should definitely come back. The guy will always be happy to welcome him to his estate. Iglisk, leaving, thanked the guy for such a warm welcome. Ryle, saying goodbye, hoped to see Mao in the future. Meanwhile, in the royal capital, in the cathedral, the subordinates of the cathedral put all their efforts into the search for the saint. Suddenly, someone ran into the room. The girl informed the holiness that they had found out the location of the saint. He eagerly asked for her location. It turns out that the saint was located in the south of the royal capital in the Olensa estate. The man had heard about this estate, which had sent out inquiries with questionable vacancies. There was a strange, frightening atmosphere around His Holiness. He ordered everyone to prepare for immediate departure. With a repulsive and insane grin, he said that he would soon meet the saint. At the same time, Lulasha was calmly and happily engaged in accounting in the accounting department. Naughty, breathing heavily, brought Julius a box of groceries. The guy thanked the girl for the delivery, to which she wanted him to come for them at least sometimes. Julius asked the girl if she noticed anything unusual when she followed them. Naughty remembered that the churchmen were preparing for the journey in a hurry. It seems that they found out the location of the saint. Julius understood the whole situation and ordered Naughty to quickly call Ryle. The Alens domain may be in danger. Julius frowned at the realization. Meanwhile, churchmen with the flag of the church were moving along the road. A large number of holy knights moved next to the carriage, protecting it from any danger. Ryle, once at Julius's house, found out that Lou is a saint. He couldn't believe the guy's words, but it was true. For the first time, when Julius met her, he felt her magical power. He had no doubts about that. Ryle immediately remembered the guy's previous words. The latter, looking at Lou, told him at the first meeting that interesting people had gathered in his domain. The guy realized that he was talking about Lou then. Ryle knew there was something wrong with Lou, but he didn't think it was that bad. S-ranked adventurers, great sages, and a saint gathered in his lands. The problem was that the churchmen were heading to him to get her back. Ryle did not understand why the girl should be returned, because she came to him of her own free will. But they didn't care much about it. They weren't interested in what Lou was thinking. For them, it was only important to return the saint. The guy, realizing this, wilted. They just wanted to use the girl to please themselves. It was good that he came to Julius and found out about the situation. Julius knew that they would surely bring knights with them. They use any method to get Lou back. Ryle clenched his fist and called out to Julius. He will certainly protect Lou from the churchmen. It was his duty to protect his charges. Julius knew he would say that, but it was impossible to rely only on feelings. Ryle understood that, and the guy had an idea. Meanwhile, Naughty was looking at the list of products in a relaxed manner. Suddenly, with the help of animal ears, the girl felt something. It was the approaching trampling of the crowd. Naughty saw a huge number of church knights from afar. She anxiously realized the gravity of the situation. The girl, panicking, ran to the Lord of Rila. She notified him of the arrival of the churchmen. The guy realized that they had already reached them. He ordered Naughty and the others to evacuate all residents to Julius's house. They accepted their lord's order. Helen went with Ryle. Ryle also ordered everyone to listen to Julius's orders after the evacuation. Suddenly Lu came up to them. She called out to Lord Ryle. The girl did not understand what was going on, but no one could explain the current situation to her. Ryle remembered Julius's words that it was better for the girl not to say anything. He was sure that in order not to cause problems for the locals, Lu would prefer to surrender to the church. So Ryle told her with a smile that they just had visitors. He and Helen will meet them. After all, they were quite intrusive, and Lu didn't particularly like such people. Nadi went to see her off with a fake smile. Helen knew that the girl would be angry when she found out about everything, but it's better this way for now. The guy asked the girl for forgiveness. He relied on her every time. However, Helen had already said that she would give her all, but protect him. She does it because she wants to. Besides, Lu was their valued comrade, and fighting for a comrade was a common thing. Ryle agreed with the girl's words. Then the two of them resolutely headed towards the approaching churchman. Almost all the residents of the Alensa estate were in Julius's house. Lu was standing in the middle of the room. She turned anxiously and called out to Julius. The girl did not understand what was going on and why everyone was gathered in his house. Julius justified himself by saying that everyone had worked so hard, so he let them chat in his house without doing anything. Lu didn't believe the guy's words. She asked him to tell her about the whole situation. Then he informed her that the churchman had come to the lands of Alens. In order to bring her back, Ryle and the others went to meet them. To avoid unnecessary casualties, everyone was evacuated to the Julius mansion. Lu turned pale after the guy's words. She realized the terrifying situation. The girl wanted to leave. Julius immediately called out to Nadi. Nadi instantly grabbed Lu and didn't let her leave. She told Lu that acting rashly was forbidden. Lu was trying to get out of her grip because Ryle and Helen could get hurt because of her. Julius told the girl that if she went to them at the moment, it could end badly not only for her, but also for others. Ryle promised to protect Lu. The girl had to believe him. Lu, remembering her lord, worriedly decided to stay in the mansion. Nadi let out a sigh of relief. Being in this place, they won't even know about their surroundings to Helen and Ryle. Suddenly, two colorful birds appeared in the room. It was Julius who magically created them. Then he ordered Nadi to open the window to the birds. After that, one of the birds flew out of the window at the same moment and soared into the sky. Soon, she sat down on a branch of a tree that was near the guys. Ryle and Helen greeted their uninvited guests with a serious expression on their faces. The knights announced to them that they knew about the presence of their saint in the land of Alens. They tried to kick the girl and the guy out of the way so that they would not interfere with them, but Ryle refused to open the way for them. This was heard by the residents with the help of a magic bird. They listened enthusiastically to their lord's serious voice. The knights tried to threaten them. They raised their weapons in their hands, to which Helen also grabbed the hilt of her sword. Suddenly, a black-haired man came out of the crowd of knights. He told his knight to calm down. The lord did not favor vain battles. The man stopped the knight's objections and soon emerged from the crowd. It was the high priest. He was dressed in a dark outfit. Most of all, a huge necklace with precious stones stood out in it. Ryle, having learned the status of the man, realized that he was the main one among the churchmen. Pale Lu listened with fear to the man's familiar voice. The high priest told everyone that he wanted to return what belonged to the church. The saint was their spirit and light. They can't exist without her. Therefore, the man asked them to return it to the church. But, of course, not for nothing, he asked them for a saint. The man started pulling something out of his sleeve. He believed that the land of Alionets, being so far away, lived quite difficult, so the priest offered the guy a bag of money. Placing the bag in Ryle's palm, he told him that the church would take the saint with them, and he will have to forget about this day. Ryle pretended to be delighted with the 50 gold coins. The residents, listening to their conversation, were angered by the priest, but Julius notified them that they shouldn't worry about it. The high priest was waiting for the guy's consent. Ryle understood. He realized that the church was making good money on believers. The priest was surprised by his words. He pretended that he did not understand anything. Then Ryle assumed that he was wrong, and only the priest was making money from it, thereby making him turn pale. It's just like Lu said. Ryle made the priest talk. His reaction only confirmed doubts about his honesty. He asked the man if the knights and other priests knew that he had filled his pockets with money. The man tried to justify himself. He told him that he would never do that. This money was patiently accumulated by him. In that case, Ryle couldn't accept them, because they must be important to a man. He returned the bag of money to the high priest. Then the guy seriously ordered the man to take the bag of money and leave. Ryle would never sell out his comrades. The villagers who heard his speech were delighted with their lord. They didn't expect any other action from him. Lu was overjoyed at Ryle's words. The high priest frowned, and at the same moment, in an angry voice, he ordered his knights to deal with the guy. The knights did not hear his words, but he stubbornly repeated them. The holy knights hesitated, but the evil priest stopped their hesitation and ordered them to do their job. Otherwise, according to the high priest, God's punishment awaited them. Therefore, the knights, having no choice, pointed their weapons at the guy. It all came down to a fight. Residents were concerned about the situation. After all, the holy knights were at least comparable in strength to the adventurers of rank B, but Julius wasn't worried about it. He calmed everyone down. However, he did not see the suffering. Helen rushed past the knights with lightning speed. She was able to defeat several holy knights with only one hand, preventing them from approaching Ryle. The knights, flying up from the girl's attack, fell to the ground. Helen, holding her sword in her hands, said gloomily that she would not allow anyone to even touch the guy. Her fellow demon hunters listened to Helen's voice with admiration. The high priest was shocked that she had dealt with the knights alone. Julius informed the others that the knights were exhausted due to the long journey and were unable to put up a decent resistance, but others believed that Helen would have dealt with them anyway. One of the defeated knights finally noticed the girl's true identity. He realized with shock that she was an S-rank adventurer nicknamed Great Sword Helen. He didn't know why the famous Helen was in such a place. The high priest was also stunned by her personality. The girl said she was here because she liked the job. The knight considered her words nonsense. However, everything turned out to be true. Besides, unlike the arrogant priest, her Lord Ryle really thinks about his charges. And even more so, he does not earn money for ordinary residents, forcing them to work hard. The knights realized that the vacancy in Ryle's advertisement was not a lie. They became jealous. The local owner turned out to be a good person. The priest was deeply shocked by the situation. Ryle informed them that they now had a choice. They could humbly return back. The high priest was frightened by Helen's sword pointed at him, or the knights could become residents of these lands. The guy calmly waited for their answer. Nadi was shocked by his words, because he invited those who recently wanted to take St. Lou away. The girl thought that it was Julius who told the guy to do so, but it was Ryle's own decision. For him, the only one to blame was the one who gave the orders. Subordinates are just toys in the hands of the master. Ryle will accept anyone who is willing to become a resident of his lands. Knights will become a good fighting force, and priests have a lot of knowledge. It was also beneficial for them. Nadi was not surprised by the great sage's prudence. The high priest panicked and tried to dissuade his subordinates, saying that he was a liar. He pointed out to them that Ryle had ultimately kept silent about the saint's location. Ryle glared at the man because he was more likely a liar than he was. Lou came to the guy of her own free will. She was tired of the suffocating life in the church. She came to these lands and found a new occupation for herself. The girl was able to do things that had previously been unacceptable to her. The current one was smiling brightly in a way she had never smiled before. The guy asked for forgiveness, but the saint that the high priest had been looking for a long time no longer existed. A simple girl named Lou lives on these lands. The guy's confident voice was heard in the room through the magic bird. She was not a simple Lou girl, but a resident of the Alens domain named Lou. From the words of the guy, Lulazia had tears in her eyes. She felt protected. Helen and Julius listened to their lord's words with warmth. They were confident in him. At that time, the high priest was discouraged by the guy's speech. The residents were happy. They surrounded the girl with their cordiality. Suddenly, a knight who recognized Helen approached Lord Ryle. He asked Ryle to accept him as a resident of the Alens lands. The guy gladly accepted him, and the high priest was shocked by the actions of his former subordinate. At the same moment, most of the male knights ran up to Ryle. They wanted with great desire to become a resident of these lands and work at a job with excellent conditions. The high priest had ruled them for so long, and the knights didn't like it. The high priest wanted to stop his former subordinates. He tried to threaten them with God's punishment for betrayal. But no one was listening to him. Everyone was trying to get closer to Ryle. Colliding with one of them, the man fell to the ground from the impact. Ryle approached the priest and gave him the helping hand. He wanted to know what he wanted to do after all. To which the man, angry, did not accept the guy's hand and got up from the ground himself. He quickly returned to his remaining knights. The man promised Ryle that he would return to the royal capital for reinforcements. The guy looked with tension at the departing churchmen who were returning to their capital. Then he let out a sigh of relief. They had succeeded. Helen thought the guy's actions were pretty cool. Ryle hoped that the high priest would retract his words, but it seems that the high priest was persistent. The high priest's former subordinates approached their new lord. They still had doubts about whether they had actually become inhabitants of these lands, but Ryle took away their doubts. which made the new residents happy. They were delighted to realize that they had a generous and kind lord who did not perceive them as hostile people. The new residents considered Ryle a saint who had come to save them from eternal darkness. Ryle was embarrassed by his new nickname Saint, so he asked them to call him by his first name. He introduced himself to his new subordinates, which made them look at him even more with admiration. The new subordinates enthusiastically accepted the guy's request. Now they did not call him a saint, but simply Ryle. At that moment, Lu was approaching Ryle. Her cheeks were flushed and she was looking at the guy with concern. Ryle smilingly informed her that he had dealt with the head priest. To his surprise, Lu fell into the guy's arms. She tearfully apologized to Ryle. Because of her, he was involved in an unpleasant situation. It was bad for her. The girl thought that she had caused everyone inconvenience. Ryle smiled and soothed the girl by stroking her head. He asked her what to do next. The girl wanted to be in this place with everyone. If that's what she wanted, she can stay with everyone as long as she wants. Suddenly, the guy heard an unexpected laugh. It turns out that the residents were watching them. They smiled at the guy's words, making Ryle embarrassed. At that moment, all the residents were happy that they had overcome a difficult situation. On the other side, her friends ran up to Helen. They were delighted with her work done. Julius, while in the house, returned the magic bird to himself. Ryle was still confused. Lu, with tears in her eyes, enjoyed the warmth of the guy with a smile. Kelly and Ben were sitting quietly next to the planted crop under a tree, laying a small cloth under themselves. Ben was calmly and relaxed, holding a lit cigarette in his hand. He says he is glad that life has finally settled down after all the previous events, and he finally feels alive. Kelly is also happy, as more than 10 knights and priests have joined them. Ben closes his eyes in a relaxed way, saying that he can't believe how everything has finally got better and he can finally smoke in peace. He even thinks that for the sake of the one who saved them, he is ready to fight even against monsters. At this moment, he notices something in front of him. Seeing a dark figure nearby, rapidly approaching them, Kelly tells Ben about it. He notifies his comrade that someone is approaching them from the territory of the demons. They both watch the approaching figure in horror, terrified that they will have problems again because a demon has come to them. Ryle was in the city at the time, dealing with the new inhabitants of his lands. He says they have everything for a normal life now, and he will bring them something else. He also tells the audience that if their store needs anything else, they can safely contact the guards or the knights, since they now have a lot of them after the priests joined them. One of the men, with tears in his eyes, is perplexedly begging for something, asking Nark and Lu to think about his feelings. He also asks the girls to think about what he told them, as he is a noble gentleman and can give them a lot. However, in response to this, Nark simply asks the man to take his place in the queue. Ryle thinks that he was wondering what the relationship would be between her and the churchgoers. He's glad that it's not a problem at the moment, but he also feels a little awkward. At this time, Ryle is thinking hard about the fact that the number of people on his territory has increased, which means now he should start taking more care of money and expenses. This makes Ryle think about setting the rules. He understands that there will be trouble, and some part of the territory may even be in crisis. He resolutely decides that he must organize such things correctly, and at the same time he realizes that he is very worried. The young guy turns to Ryle. At this time, Lu attentively signs some documents, while Nark wearily complains about how bored she is at work. Ryle is talking to the man at this time, saying that he can go to his family if he wants, which he is very happy about. Looking at Ryle, Lu confusedly remembers how she hugged him recently and he gently stroked her head in response. Just the memory of it makes her terribly confused and a slight blush appears on her face. She shyly covers her face with her hands to hide her blush, as she is ashamed to even remember what happened. At this time, Nark turns to her, asking what she is thinking about with her hands covered. She assumes with a sly grin that Lu is just remembering that incident. Lee tries to justify himself and get away from the topic, as he does not want to discuss this out loud at all. Nark ignores her wishes and says out loud that Lu will not be able to hide anything, since a girl in love is easy to figure out and the rest of the audience can hear it. They surround Lee with interest, asking if he is really in love and with whom. They just beg to tell them who the girl has fallen in love with, while she is terribly embarrassed and desperately asks to stop talking about it. Nark only laughs amiably at his friend in response to this. Their fun is interrupted by Kelly entering the room. Ryle, seeing his worried expression, asks what happened to him. He replies that they have a client, while pointing to the street. Ryle goes out to meet the guest and sees Mao-san holding a giant wooden barrel on one shoulder. He asks Mao why he came so suddenly. He carefully puts the heavy barrel on the floor and replies that he is not here for long and asks Ryle if he is the owner. He responds positively and asks if Mao would like to start working here. He replies that he came to bring some booze, banging his hand on a giant barrel. Ryle says he welcomes him to his territory anyway and offers to introduce Mao to someone. At this moment, Ryle is suddenly recalled from behind. The next moment, several people pull Ryle back, pulling him back by his shoulders, and two priests come forward armed with swords. They shout that it is dangerous here because there is a demon and he must heroically give his life for the sake of the Lord, while Ryle tries to stop them, and Mao stands in misunderstanding, not reacting in any way to their words and actions. One of the men asks Ryle how he could not have noticed such an important thing and such a huge danger until now. Namely, that the Demon King himself is standing in front of him. He replies that if they are talking about Mao, it is not true. Lu comes up and says that Mao exudes a very ferocious magical power, and this clearly means that he is the king of demons. Then Ryle turns to Mao, asking him to confirm that the words spoken by others are not true. He says quite calmly that Ryle said it first. He can't believe that Mao has been the Demon King all this time and hasn't talked about it. Ryle recalls how, at their first meeting, he was a naive fool, and at Mao's suggestion not to keep secrets from each other. At this time, the priests are going to attack Mao, and he says that he came here only for Ryle, while clearly not intending to attack and engage in battle with the priests. Ryle decides to intervene in the conflict before the clash begins. He says that he is, of course, surprised that Mao turned out to be the king of demons, but for him it is not really that important. Ryle says that it doesn't matter to him what Mao does or what race he is, and that others should accept him as calmly as he does. The knights are perplexed because they know that they are obliged to defend the territory of Arlance. And the Demon King is their enemy. Ryle, with his back to the knights, says that he then makes a decision. And then he says that since the knights don't like Mao so much, they can try to fight him on their own. After all, he will most likely easily deal with them, and he will obviously like it. After listening to all this, Lu then reflects on Ryle's words. After gathering her thoughts and thinking a little, she decides to come forward and even get closer to the Demon King. She carefully bows in front of him and asks Mao for forgiveness for not showing him proper respect. She also greets him with a friendly smile and says that she is in charge of accounting. She tells Mao that he can contact her if he has any questions. Ryle, watching this, realizes that Mao is kind of happy, despite the fact that he doesn't really like to communicate with people. Mao, looking at Lu, spreads his arms in a friendly way, saying that he is glad to meet you. Then Lu turns to the knights and says that now that they have met Mao, it's time for them to get back to work. Ryle smiles pleasantly, looking at the favorable situation. He watches as the tension is relieved, and the others are already getting a little bolder and getting to know the Demon King. Ryle then turns to Mao, saying that he was not told that Mao was met by people along the way. He asks if he's okay. Remembering this, Mao decides to tell Ryle what happened. Earlier, in the demon territory, Mao proudly stood in front of his subordinate demons and monsters, about to make a speech. He asks his subordinates to listen to him carefully. He says that they entered the territory of Arlens and found out the secret of this territory. He also says that he found a lot of different supports and mechanisms there that put Arlens employees not in the first place, and they shared secrets with them. Mao wanted to introduce these technologies even on his own territory. He says that good motivation is half the work. They still need to work hard for the benefit of this wonderful territory. Mao strongly urges his subordinates to build this wonderful territory with him. In response to this, the subordinates only say that it sounds somehow unreasonable. They are clearly not happy with this idea. They begin to disperse, saying that they do not want to work, as it is easier to leave everything to the ruler, as before. Mao tries to stop his subordinates, saying that they are too arrogant. After that, the desperate Demon King left a letter in which he wrote that he would leave the palace and go somewhere, as things were not going at all. Mao ends his story by saying that this is how he returned to Ryle. He says that they can ride horses as before, train their riding skills. Ryle doesn't say anything in response, but he himself feels that the real problem will clearly arise much later. Then, Ryle offers to show Mao the bar and he agrees, as he would like to try to work there. Mao turns to Ben and Kel and asks if they are going to go to the bar with them too. He also sincerely expresses his gratitude to them for bringing him to Ryle. Kelly says they still have some work to do, wanting to decline, but Ben is clearly going to agree. Kelly tries to reason with a friend, to which he asks how they can refuse an offer of a drink. Mao says that if they come, he will be only too glad. At this time, Lu comes up to Ryle and says that it's time for them to go too. Ryle says they can come over after work too. The priests, upon hearing this, say that if Lord Lu is going to go, then they will go too. They cannot allow their lord to be alone with the Demon King, as it can be very dangerous. At this time, Mao says that since they are so worried, they can go along with them. Ryle realizes with a small smile that despite everything, some still cannot accept Mao. Narch then turns to him, saying that she still has a job, so she will stay here. Then Ryle says they're ready to go. Mao says he can't wait to see what kind of bar it is, and Lou notes that it's nice for her to walk around like this all together. Ben agrees with her, and Kelly asks him not to drink too much. They all come together to the bar, which turns out to be a one-story building that has clearly not been cleaned for a long time. Everyone goes inside and discovers garbage, empty bottles, dust, and cobwebs. Ryle explains that the fact is that he has not used this room yet and therefore it needs cleaning. He turns to Mao, asking what he thinks about the house designed for a bar. He replies that the place is clearly not the best. Ryle reassures him, saying that everything will be fine, they just need to clean up a little bit and he's going to clean up with his mates. Mao says that he came to the territory of Arlens in order to rest. Ryle asks how Mao could manage anything else with such disorganization. Kelly rolls up her sleeves in preparation for cleaning. He tells Mao that cleaning shouldn't be so difficult for him. Ben supports him, intending to get down to business right away. Lou also supports them, although she doesn't really want to work after she has already worked. Mao gives them a slightly surprised look. The priests are protesting at this time, saying that they don't want to work for the Demon King, and Lou doesn't like that they're still mad at him. However, at some point, everyone present turns their attention to Mao. He turned away from everyone and a sinister aura began to surround him, and he himself began to tremble. The priests immediately become alarmed because they believe that the Demon King is trembling with anger. Therefore, they tune in to the confrontation even when they are scared. However, Ryan walks up to the Demon King, walks around him and looks at his face closer. Mao explains that everything that happened made him laugh so much that he even started crying. He asks for some time so that he can calm down. Finally calming down, Mao turns to the others and urges everyone present to put all their efforts into the work, and Ryan enthusiastically supports him. Nark is in the city at this time. She took off some clothes while working, leaving only a top on top. After hard work, she wearily wipes the sweat from her forehead and sighs wearily. There is a wide cart in front of her, which accommodates 4 barrels and several boxes. She is proud of herself for bringing so much food as they are just opening a bar. She is sure that everyone will be very happy when she comes to the bar with these big barrels of sake. She already imagines how Ryan will praise her, which will make her very happy, and she herself will become the star of the festive evening. Joyfully, she takes hold of the cart, intending to pull it by hand. However, the narc cannot move the cart by an inch, as the cart is too heavy for her and she is quite tired. At this moment, Ellen and several other people approach her. She asks Narc what she does, to which she replies that she is going to some nice place. Then Helen demands that Narc tell her where she is going. She replies that she needs to get this cart there, but it is very difficult for her. Then Helen takes it upon herself to help her with the cart. Mao, Rain, Lou, and the others finally manage to clean up after working hard. The knights clearly still don't trust the Demon King, even though they helped with the cleaning. Mao praises them at this time, even scaring the priests a little. Not listening to their dissatisfaction, Mao says that it doesn't matter that they followed his orders. He suggests that everyone celebrate together. The knights look around a little lost because Mao is still very calm. Just at this time, the narc arrives. Ryan asks why she came, to which she points to a cart with barrels of sake, near which Helen is standing. The girls look at the hero with joy and enthusiasm. Helen is clearly happy about the appearance of the bar, and she happily asks why she wasn't told about it. Ryan replies that he hasn't made a decision yet. Ellen, on the other hand, does not listen to him and enthusiastically joyfully encourages the others to quickly unload the barrels into the bar, since she has not tasted sake for quite a while. Ryan, seeing how his girlfriend likes alcohol, realizes that they are likely to get very drunk today. Natch, at this time, awkwardly approaches Ryan asking if she is doing well. She also asks if she brought too much sake. Mal breaks into the conversation with the words that there is no such thing as a lot of sake. Ryan says, all the sake barrels are for them. Mao then gratefully pats Natch on the head, praising her and calling her Employee of the Month, which makes her very happy. She clearly looks displeased when Mao removes his hand from her head. He picks up the barrels, intending to bring them into the bar, but he meets the eyes of Helen, who was carrying food at the time. She is clearly hostile to him. Ellen, clearly hostile to the stranger, asks Mao who he is, who in response tells her his name, clearly also disliking the girl. Ryan intervenes in the conversation, again so as not to develop a conflict. He introduces them to each other. He tells Helen that this man is Mao, the new master and owner of the bar. Ryan also introduces Mao to Ellen, saying that she is the main monster hunter. The two are still hostile to each other even after Ryle's words. Ellen says that Mao doesn't even look like a human being, and Mao clearly disagrees with her assumptions, denying all her suspicions. In the end, everyone who comes sits down at the bar to have a drink together. They all raise a toast in honor of the opening of the bar and the appearance of new friends, lifting numerous cups of booze into the air. The priests drink beer with tears in their eyes, rejoicing that they have finally received a reward for their hard work. They ask the Demon King if he understands their feelings. He replies that he understands them because he also works a lot, and when he finishes, he is happy and sad at the same time. Mao says he understands this painful sadness very well. The workers are clearly pleased that Mao understands their feelings perfectly. Ellen comes up to their table, having already removed part of the armor, and with a pleasant, relaxed smile on her face says that everything will be different with the bar now. She also tells the young guys that they can start working in a bar if they want. They are happy to support this idea and say that from now on they will work hard at the bar. They raise another toast in honor of the Arlent's territory, while at another table, Nark and Lu are having fun together. Ryan looks at it all with a smile. He is glad that everyone got along with Mao. He didn't know what would have happened if they hadn't been fighting all the time. He mentally thanks all the workers, and he is glad that they can all rely on each other. At first, he thought that he, as a lord, needed to do something about it. But over time he realized that maybe he didn't need to worry so much. Ellen and Mao notice that some people are already drunk and have fallen asleep. Mao, looking at them, says that this is the penultimate stage of the evening with a drink. He tells Ellen that she is a worthy drinking companion, even the best among people. However, he also adds that he drinks better anyway. Ellen responds by saying that she has just warmed up and calls Mao a beginner. She also reminds him that she is a real knight. He also responds to her with hostility, rhetorically asking how many minutes later, in her opinion, she will realize that he will not give in to her. Ellen announces to the whole bar that from now on, the election of the best drinker in this territory begins. Mao agrees and appoints Lord as the judge, after which their competition begins. Ryan looks at the current friendly situation with a smile, joining his friends. Everyone is having fun and doing various unusual things. After a while, most of the bar's guests were already drunk and asleep. Nark and Lu were covered with a blanket. Ellen and Mao clink pints. Ellen suggests starting their competition with sake. Mao is as confident of his victory as she is. Ellen turns to Ryan and says that this time the match between her and Mao ended in a draw. However, she and Mao notice that Ryan has already fallen asleep on the floor. They decided not to wake him up, but just to continue drinking. In the Royal City Cathedral, the high priest sits on his throne while he is shaking with anger. He deeply regrets something. He gets terribly angry, remembering what happened on the territory of Arlents. He shouts at his subordinates, standing guiltily in front of him with their heads down. At this moment, a young guy enters the room, saying that he has important information about the territory of Arlents. Shinkan leans over to the guy and tells him to pass the news in a whisper. These words bring a sinister smile to the priest's face. He happily runs away, saying that he urgently needs to arrange a meeting with the king. The other two servants look at each other. One of them says that in the end, they must stay in the territory of Ardents no matter how they fight. At this time, Ryan and Lu are having lunch with Mao. He thanks them again for their support and help. Ryan suggests that we finally start eating. Mao says that the dining table is the best place to discuss business. On their dining table there is a bread box, a pot of hot soup and plates for all three of them. Ryan mentions that today's dish for their dinner was prepared by Lu. She confusedly says she doesn't know if Mao will like it. In response, he happily starts eating lunch, thanking her for the food. At this time, Ryan decides to ask Mao about the priests. He replies that they are working hard in the kitchen. Mao also mentions that he is also a good cook, especially good at something to drink. Ryan expresses his joy that Mao and the priests have become friends with each other. He thinks that some of them will work at Mao's bar, and everyone else doesn't seem to mind either. Also this time, Light and his friends come to their restaurant. At this time, Mao decides to try the soup, carefully sipping a little from a spoon. However, the next moment his spoon falls to the floor. Mao leans back in his chair, soup dripping from the corner of his parted mouth. Ryan anxiously asks Mao if he is okay, while Lu looks at him with concern. Ryan starts shaking Mao's shoulders in fright, trying to wake him up. He opens his eyes heavily and bends over while Ryan asks how he feels. Mao ignores his question, saying that something is wrong with the soup cooked by Lu. She looks fearfully at the bowl of soup, saying that this should not happen because she only added a little grass to recover from fatigue. Mao says that for him, as the Demon King, all herbs are almost harmless. Lu panics and apologizes, saying that she should have checked everything in advance. However, Mao asks her not to worry, as it seems to him that it is definitely not about the grass. Mao, with shaking hands and clutching his stomach, takes another spoon, intending to continue eating the soup. He says that if someone spiked something for him, he will find it. He also asks Lu not to worry, as he won't get rid of this man and she won't have any problems. Ryan, scared, asks him not to overdo it. Lu and Ryan ask him to be careful, but he doesn't listen, even though his hands are shaking. He needs to be more vigilant when consuming food. At this moment, when Ryan and Lu are trying to stop Mao from eating the soup while he is shouting to leave it, two priests come into the room. Ryan says they came at the perfect moment. After that, they immediately attack Mao, forcibly putting soup in his mouth until he faints again. They scold him for the fact that such a beautiful woman made him soup, and he, as it seemed to them, refused to eat. They demand that he leave not a drop and drink the whole bowl of soup. Ryan tries to stop them before they make it worse. He announces that tonight's dinner is over and demands that everyone go home. The priests had to drag away the Demon King, who was still lying in a complete faint. Ryan tells Lu that this is the first time he has eaten in such a noisy environment. She replies that it was even fun because Mao was writhing in pain in a funny way. She says that next time she will have to cook something delicious herself, and Ryan agrees with her. Then they decide to continue their meal quietly because when they finish eating, they will have work waiting for them. After lunch, Lu and Ryan sat together in the accounting department and looked through books and records. The characters' faces are quite exaggerated. Ryan notes that their expenses are quite high. Lu says this is because the number of people in his territories is increasing. Ryan realizes that he needs to find a way to somehow increase his income. In addition, the harvest this year is quite small, which obviously does not help them. Looking through the records, Ryan notices that the blacksmith Ragda's income has increased significantly, and he does not understand when this happened. Ryan decides that the care of weapons and agricultural machinery should be the main task. Ryan realizes that he will probably have to invest in the blacksmith. He suggests that Lu go with him to the Ragdo master, and she agrees. Lu and Ragdo come together to the blacksmith shop to Ragdo, who was just busy with work. He greets the newcomers and asks what they came for. Ryan apologizes for distracting the blacksmith from his work. Rain says that since Ragdo is an expert, he came to consult him about the weapon. Ragdo agrees that he is an expert in this, and asks Ryan if he has heard about his latest novelty. Ragdo brings the sword and gives it to Ryan. Ryan looks at the blade and sees that it has a rather strange shape, and this sword is different from what he has used so far. Lu is also surprised by the unusual weapon. Ragdo says that this sword even has magic. Ryan gets a little scared, saying that the magic is very strong. He can control her, but asks if she can be dangerous. Lu believes that this is unlikely to happen, since it is not black magic, so it is not harmful. Ryan is able to take control of the magic and the sword, and Ragdo is glad that everything turned out fine. He is clearly boasting about himself, saying that he was able to attract the attention of the Lord with his skill, but he needs new equipment to become perfect. He also boasts about his body, saying that he achieved this body with his work for the sake of this profession. He also says that the sword is special because it is made from the claws of the Wolf King, which Ellen got, and there is already an expert Julius. Ryan looks at the sword, assuming that the magic power of the sword is also the power of Julius. And Lu says that it is possible. Then she decides to go to Julius to talk to him. Meanwhile, Ragdo continues to talk about his body while his guests leave. Rain and Lu come home to Julius, who is quietly sitting on the bed on a huge number of pillows. He greets the newcomers and notes that they rarely come to him. Ryan gets right to the point and asks Julius what kind of weapon Ragdo the blacksmith makes. He replies that it is a magic weapon. He says that with the material of the real monster that he made, the sword had magical power. The strength and hardness are greatly increased compared to conventional weapons due to the magical power. Then Ryan asks why he decided to make such a weapon in the first place, to which Julius replies that he just decided to increase his income at least a little. He says that with the increase in the number of people, the number of costs has also increased, and Ryan agrees with him. Julius asks him if he would not like to reduce his expenses on his territory. Ryan replies that, in his opinion, it would be unsafe for the territory of our lens. Julius continues to say that he has no choice but to increase his income. Since it is difficult to get a new source of income, it is therefore easier to just start earning more. He had previously used the monster corpses he received from Ellen to create more valuable magic weapons and sell them. He was just selling monsters and increasing his income. Ryan praises Julius's wit, and Lou says that this is what was expected from the great sage. Julius, in turn, says that there is a limit to what he can add, since even monsters can only put magic power into high-rank monsters. That is why it is still difficult for him to do much. Ryan says that he is grateful that his income has increased thanks to Julius, to which he replies that he does not want to lose this place either. He also says he wanted to do it earlier, however he had consulted with the blacksmith in advance and, having made a sample, he knew that when they saw the magic weapon, he would be surprised and accept his offer. He really thought about talking after the sword wasn't ready. Because Julius aspires to what is above. Ryan asks what he's aiming for. He talks about plus 24 copies of magic weapons and also claims a holy sword. Lou and Ryan look at him in surprise. Ryan asks if the holy sword is really capable of making, to which he replies that it is possible, subject to certain conditions. Ryan realizes that he cannot make the holy sword himself, but if Julius can actually make it, then it will most likely be good for the future administration of the territory. Lou is still in disbelief, asking if Julius can definitely make a holy sword. He replies that the Holy Spirit is not a magical force, but a spirit. Then Ryan asks when Julius will be able to make a holy sword. He replies that he will bring the materials for the sword, but he will not be able to make it now. He says that the previous magician might have been able to make this sword, but he was a brave man, which means they also need a brave man. Upon hearing this, Ryan suggests that in order to make a sword, they need the strength of a brave man, and Julius confirms. Ryan asks Lou if she has ever seen brave men, to which she replies that she has not. Ryan understands that even if the brave man gets into their territory, there is no guarantee that he will agree to help them. Julius asks if the Lord knows what the hero's mission is. He assumes that his mission is simply to make the world peaceful. Julius then asks what they are fighting for, to which Ryan replies that there will be different things, but in general, as a lord, he is obliged to fight the Demon King. After these words, he and Lou suddenly come to a realization. Julius says that he has heard about Mao from Narcha, and he has already asked her to pass on some rumors to some people in the royal capital. That's how the rumors that the Demon King resides in the territory of Arlents reach the priests. He also says that Ardents can be a battlefield between the brave man and Mao. In response to this, Lou fearfully says that it is very dangerous. However, Ryan says it would be good. Lou asks what he means. Ryan explains that the brave man is most likely somewhere among them. He clearly saw Mao, and, since he did not attack, it means he is not against him. He reminds Lou that Mao is still trying to forcibly drink the soup she made. This brings a smile to Lou's face. She is glad that Mao can live in these territories regardless of position and race. Rain says that otherwise, Arlents could not be called Arlents. Lou says she would sincerely like to see the Demon King and the brave man who should be at war peacefully hold hands. She is sure that she will be able to see it here with the others. Ryan wants to see it too. Julius notes that if this happens, the story of heroes and demons will change. Lou smiles even brighter, happily saying that one day they will surely happily remember these moments. At that time, in the royal palace, the head priest shouted at the knight, saying that the Demon King lives in the territory of Arlents and he must tell the king about it right now. The knight helplessly replies that he knows nothing, and there is no one in the audience, and even to the argument that the head priest is standing in front of him, he can do nothing. This infuriates the priest, because he realizes that he has information with which he can crush them. At this time, a girl comes up to them, having heard that they were talking about the Demon King. A girl in a simple dress and shoes, wearing a sword on her belt. She asks me to tell her about it in more detail. The priest turns to look at her, and the knight, in utter shock, recognizes the brave man in the girl. There was no limit to his surprise. The priest and the brave man kneel in front of the king, who reads on paper that the Demon King is in the territory of Arlents. He is worried about this, since there is a demon territory right next to this territory, and the Demon King can invade at any time. Most of all, he was shocked by the vacancies presented by the high priest, 2 days a week, no overtime, which seems abnormal to him. The king says that this must be investigated. The brave man asks what they should do with the Demon King. Then, the king orders the brave Hannah to go to the territories of Arlents and find out what is happening there. The high priest looks at Hannah with a smirk, realizing that this time he will not be able to miss this chance. Meanwhile, the king tells Hannah that if she needs anything, she can contact the minister. She understands that the undoubted one has to do the job given by the king. But she has to do it, because she is a brave person. The girl is well aware that she has a great responsibility. Then, the brave Hannah goes to the territory of Arlance. After a few days of her journey, Hannah painfully clutches at her rumbling stomach. The girl does not understand what she should do because she has been walking for several days and her stomach is swollen. Hannah decides to rest and sits down wearily near a tree. She picks up a piece of paper from the ground and examines it. After that, she tastes a piece and immediately spits it out. She sat hugging her knees and thought about why everything was always like this. She remembers coming to the minister. When he hears that she is heading to the territory of Arlance by order of the king, he gives her 1 silver coin. Hannah is surprised that they only give her this and says that it's not even enough for a ticket to Arlance. The minister says with a smile that he would be happy to give her more, but the state allocates very little to heroes. He adds that he will give Hannah a bag for this coin as a bonus so that Hannah does not lose it. Hannah thanks the minister with a satisfied smile and leaves. He finally tells her that they have little money in general, and if Hannah fails this mission, they will have to cut her salary, after which he wishes her good luck. Hannah returns to her current state. She bitterly realizes that working as a hero is quite difficult, and it feels like her heart is breaking. But she's a hero, and so many people support her. Hannah realizes that she doesn't have time and she has to live up to expectations. She resolutely stands up, knowing that there is still a little bit left to the territory of Arlance and she must do her best. Fortunately, after some time, Hannah finally reached the territory of Arlance. The girl exhales with relief. She surveys the territory of Arlance from afar, thinking that the Demon King is there. His existence plunges the world into fear, so she has to be better than the Demon King. Hannah is determined to fight, as she has her fortitude from the very beginning. She has a weapon with her, a sword, but she is not very comfortable with it. She begins to use magic, realizing that she needs to fight for her life, as this is her role as a hero. Suddenly, someone interrupts her, namely a little girl who asked what she was doing. The girl doesn't understand anything. Hannah leans over to the girl and introduces herself with a smile, saying that she came there for work. The girl then tells Hannah with a smile that she lives there. Hannah realizes that if the Demon King was here, this child couldn't smile so much. She is very pleased with the thought that perhaps there is no Demon King in this territory, and all this was a mistake. She happily realizes that all she has to do is ask the Lord for a job offer. Then Hannah turns to the girl, asking if she knows where the master is. The girl replies that she knows, and that Mao-chan said they would eat rice today. When she hears Mao's name, she realizes with horror that the Demon King is still in Arlance territory and everything is already under his rule. Looking at the child, she decides that her smile is definitely false. She mentally promises the girl that she will definitely return her real smile, because the Demon King forces her to laugh, although inside she is definitely crying. Hannah takes the baby by the shoulders and declares that she will give her back her real smile, but the girl does not understand anything. Hannah asks the girl to take her to where she just said, and the girl agrees to take her with her. The girl, holding Hannah's hand, leads her to Mao, while Hannah looks around anxiously, realizing that the Demon King is somewhere nearby, so she needs to be on guard. They pass by Ragdo, who takes a break from work to greet them. The girl says that she brought her little sister to him and demands that he greet her. She also says that her stupid sister came there on business and she needs to see Mao. Hannah does not understand why the girl called her stupid. Ragdo greets Hannah. He introduces himself and says that he works there as a blacksmith. Hannah looks at him and realizes that he is clearly not the Demon King. At this time, Ragdo begins to show off his body again. Hannah, looking at Ragdo's body, realizes that there are really abnormally many muscles on his body. She imagines that this man had to work hard. He probably became like this because he was enslaved by the Demon King. Hannah then tells Ragdo and the girl to be patient a little more. She will soon defeat the Demon King and they will become normal. Ragdo looks at her blankly. After that, Hannah is mentally dissatisfied with how cruel the Demon King is, while the girl takes her away from Ragdo, saying that her sister is at it again. Ragdo says goodbye to them, finally telling Hannah to do her best. Walking through the city, Hannah notices how the girl was leading 2 monsters along the middle of the street. Hannah is very surprised that monsters walk in the middle of the territory, and the girl treats monsters so kindly. She is so naive. Hannah realizes with horror that everything is under his control, and monsters have always terrorized people. She imagines a picture of 2 monsters threatening a helpless girl. Meanwhile, the girl led 2 monsters into the building, where she turned out to be just 2 young men who were carrying the skins of monsters. One of them complains loudly about how hard it is for him, and Hannah hears it. Hearing the cries for help, she realizes that the people here need her help, so she must act immediately. Meanwhile, the girl finally brought Hannah to the bar, saying that Mao lives there. Hannah gathers her thoughts, but the girl decides to go inside right away, and Hannah tries to stop her because she did not finish. Once inside, the girl greets Mao with a smile, and Mao, two priests working at the bar, Ellen and Ryan sitting at the same table, smile back at her. The girl happily goes inside, saying that it smells very good inside. Ryan asks the little girl who she brought with her, since he had not seen her before. He approaches her and introduces himself, saying that he is the lord of this territory. He asks the girl what brought her to Arlen's. Hannah, confused, replies that she is here for work, but at this moment her stomach rumbles loudly, interrupting her words. She clutches her stomach, blushing with embarrassment, and tries to somehow justify herself. However, Ryan ignores this, saying what she needs to do before auditioning if she came to the position, but Hannah interrupts him, saying that's not why she's here. Hannah is too embarrassed to say a word more. While the girl says that she will introduce her to Mao, he will be serving treats soon. Hannah and the girl are given chairs so that they can sit down at the table and eat. Hannah is hungry, but she realizes that as a brave person, she can't eat there. Mao stands in front of her with a friendly smile and hands her a bowl full of fragrant soup. The girl happily eats the soup, calling it very tasty. Ryan notices that Hannah is not eating and asks what is wrong and asks her not to be shy. Mao at the counter leans over to her and tells her that she needs to eat, as she needs strength. Then Hannah agrees, takes a spoonful of soup and tastes it on her face, which she really likes. She says with a smile that the food is very tasty. Mao looks at it with a smile. Hannah suddenly comes to her senses and says that she has nothing, and she has nothing to pay for the food. However, even so, she still ate the whole plate in a second. Ryan notes that the girl was obviously very hungry and asks what her name is. She also says that in fact, for the last few days she has only eaten grass that seems edible by the side of the road. Upon hearing this, Ryan fearfully assumes that she has escaped from somewhere. However, she denies, saying that she came to the territory of Arlen's for work. This is a very important job that can only be entrusted to her. Hannah also says that, a little more, and she will receive money for her work and will be able to repay them for the food. Ryan, after listening to her, says that he doesn't know what Hannah is doing, but he can't let her keep eating grass like this. He says it's pretty weird that she's working, but she's still having trouble eating. It doesn't matter how important the job is, even if it's the most important job. Ellen says that Hannah most likely feels like a little girl, and it is clear that she is used to accepting the annoying rules of the guild. Ellen continues by saying that she used to think it was the only way to survive too, and then she quit her job at the guild as an S-rank fighter and found a way to live there as a monster hunter. Hannah is very surprised that Ellen gave up such an important job and came there, to which she replies that she has no regrets. Because here she can fully show her strength and receive proper payment for her labors. She also likes that there are no annoying rules here, like in the guild. Lu says that she is also visiting and is also doing her new job. The girl looks at the heroine with great enthusiasm. Ryan tells Hannah that many of the people had a hard time in the place they used to be. That's why he won't let Hannah experience the same painful feeling anymore. Because he wants to at least make this place the best in the world. Hannah, after listening to him, does not understand, because she knows that there must also be a demon king here. However, she understands that since she came here, it has been very warm and fun. She doesn't understand why people are so happy if the demon king is there. Heiya would be glad if she wasn't a brave person and could live like everyone else, because for everyone she is a hero to hope for. But there's nothing she can do about it. Ryan apologizes for the fact that they just met, but they are already putting pressure on her. Hannah says it's not that easy, but she's doing the job assigned to her. Ryan remembers that he asked in detail what kind of work she came here for, and asks her to tell if it's not difficult for her. He says they will cooperate whenever possible. Hannah says a little haltingly that she has heard that the Demon King lives here. The others lose their smile, and Ryan stands awkwardly. Mao, hearing the mention of himself, asks who called him. Hannah explains that she was talking about the Demon King, to which Mao replies that he is the Demon King. It was as if Hannah had just noticed that he had big horns on his head and was clearly not human. At the same moment, Hannah abruptly gets up from her chair and asks in a frightened voice if she really is the King of Demons, as if she does not believe what she has heard. There is a Demon King in Arlen's territory, and Hannah has received the King's order. She walked for kilometers with a few silver coins and a wooden sword. This moment has come. The Demon King is standing in front of her. She must fight with all her might. This is her job. But where the Demon King is, it's very warm, and maybe it's because of the Demon King so. Hannah pulls herself away from such thoughts, realizing that they are trying to confuse her, and the Demon King can only bring evil. Upon hearing that the guy standing in front of her was the Demon King, the girl was greatly shocked by this news. She abruptly walked away in fright. She asks Mao angrily why he does this to people. Hannah points at him, accusing Mao of terrorizing and killing in this wonderful and kind world. He says with incomprehension that he does not understand what kind of terror and murder she is talking about. Hannah says it's useless to deny this fact. Ryan intervenes in their argument and tells her that Mao is indeed the Demon King, but he doesn't do what she accuses him of. Hannah turns to Mao, saying that the bar owner is protecting him, and asks if Mao is the owner of the bar. He replies that his job is to serve good food and sake. He says it's his job. Hannah calls his words a blatant lie. Ellen can't believe what's happening. Ryan tries to calm Hannah down by trying to convince her that Mao is telling the truth. Hannah grabs her sword and says that the Demon King is trying to trick her. She pulls the sword out of its scabbard and points it at Mao, saying that he will not be able to deceive her. She also says that this is all a game of the Demon King, and only after defeating him will world peace prevail. Ellen, looking at Ryle, says that she also thinks Mao is evil and asks what he is doing. He replies that it's all just a misunderstanding. Lu is also trying to calm Hannah down at this time. At this time, Mao leaves Hannah, who sees that he clearly does not want to fight with her. He asks to bring the table and chair to the edge. After which he accepts Hannah's challenge. Ryle is clearly against it, but Mao asks him not to worry and leave everything to him. He says it's not the first time he's heard this story and he's in control of everything. Mao suggests Hannah to argue. He sets a condition that the loser will listen to the winner and asks if Hannah agrees to such conditions. She agrees. Then Mao suggests that she attack him. Hannah is determined to get rid of the Demon King and save everyone. It's her job as a hero. She starts using magic, saying that she doesn't know how long she can stand it and is going to borrow the power of the Great Light Elemental. Everyone present looks at how Hannah summons the spirit on her own, surprised that she is really capable of such a thing. At this time, Ryle remembers Julius's words that to make a holy sword, you need not magic, but the spirit of a brave man. He finally realizes that Hannah is a brave person. She screams that it's too late to notice, and she swings her sword at Mao, screaming furiously. Mao doesn't look worried, and Ryle demands that Hannah stop. At the moment of impact, Mao puts a cup of sake in front of the sword and it stops without even breaking the cup. Hannah can't believe her eyes, but Mao is still calm. Others look at the situation with misunderstanding. Mao says that Hannah's strength is amazing and she can even take him, even with a cheap sword, but now she is worn out and he is stronger. He says that if Hannah had the strength, he would not have been able to stop her sword with a mug. Mao can also control the spirit, only she is light and he is dark. He tells Hannah that she should just give up because it's useless to fight here. She couldn't beat him, at least not now. In the next second, Hannah's sword just disappears into thin air. Mao asks her if she wants to continue the fight. Hannah just falls to her knees in resignation, realizing that she no longer has power or weapons and is completely defeated. Hannah is silent for a few seconds with her head down, after which she raises her head and starts crying loudly while tears are actively flowing from her eyes. She's crying because she came here so much and ended up just losing so easily. She blames the greedy guild because she walked here for so long just to afford a sword. Mao begins to panic and tries to calm the girl down, saying that everything is not so bad. However, Hannah does not listen to him, continuing to cry because she tried so hard and now she's been defeated, and even her opponent is trying to comfort her. Others clearly condemn Mao for bringing the girl to tears. Then Mao turns to Ryle in fright, panicking and asking him what to do. Ryle tells Hannah that he's going to bring her a chair now so she can sit down and calm down. At this time, the girl who brought a wooden stool for her. Mao silently looks at what is happening, not knowing what to do in this situation. After a while, Hannah finally calmed down while the girl gently stroked her head and said encouraging words. Ryle, Lu and Ellen sat down in front of her and Ryle asked, "Has she calmed down?" Hannah says that she has calmed down and apologizes for behaving like that. She strokes the girl's head with a smile, saying that everything she has put up with so far has suddenly spilled out, but now she's fine, and she thanks those present for helping her. Ryle says he has already figured it out, but still decided to ask again if Hannah is brave to make sure. Hannah confirms this and says that her mission is to destroy the Demon King. Mao then says that during the whole time he has been here, he has not wanted to do anything like this. He is also sorry that the girl had to cry because of him. Ryle says Mao gets along well with everyone. As he said earlier, Mao is the Demon King, but he's not a bad guy. He says they will be happy to take Hana in. He understands that she works hard and her work is very important. It is very heavy, so you need to pay for it with dignity. And if it's not, then it's just exploitation. Ryle tells Hana that she is most likely feeling pressure because her position is too important for the world to give up. However, she is unable to provide for Hana. She is simply being ruthlessly used. She wants to say something in opposition, but Ryle continues, saying that she can stay here. If she receive little for useful work, then here she will receive a lot for a smaller scale, and she can safely stay here, which surprises her very much. While she listens to Ryle with her mouth open, he says that she will have a job without overtime. In a good place, she will be able to work in pairs. She will also be able to take a day off and recover for now. Ryle will also provide her with all the necessary equipment. Hana says she used to be paid 1 silver coin a month. Ryle says he won't pay her that little because she just won't survive that way. Hana then asks if they have any weapons other than wooden swords. Then Hana asks why they pay so much at this job. Ryle replies that this is because there are only white jobs here, so there are absolutely normal salaries here. He says that he knows that she was assigned to kill the Demon King. Then he asks Hana what she wants to do now. Ryle says she doesn't have to be a brave person and suffer. In the Demon Palace, the monsters panicked as the Demon King still did not return and the work was piling up. They realize that it will take a little more time and everything will collapse for them. Mr. Reason enters the room and asks the others not to worry, as the Demon King will be back soon. He says he sent Mirai to Arlen's to bring the Demon King back. The monsters rejoice at this news because they understand that they have nothing to worry about anymore. However, they still need to wait out this time somehow. They have nothing to do, they will have to work on their own. Obviously, not everyone likes the fact that they will have to work, but unfortunately they have no choice. Ellen, Ryle, and Lou, along with Hana, choose a new job for Hana. Ryle says that she has also become the ruler here and she must first decide what she would like to do. She keeps her head down and says she never thought about it. An idea comes to Ryle. He says that he needs the power of the spirit to create a holy sword and he asks Hana for help if she doesn't mind. The mention of the holy sword clearly pleases Hana. She asks in surprise if Lord Ryle wants to create a holy sword. He replies that he has a suitable sword, so all he has to do is put a spirit in it. In order to create a holy sword, he needs a brave man. He also says that it was originally the idea of Sage Julius. Hana abruptly gets up from her chair and says that she cannot experiment without knowing the consequences. She has no idea how to do this and what will happen to her powers after that. Ellen thinks that Julius thought it all out, but he didn't have time to tell them his plan. Ryle agrees with her. Hana then agrees to help Ryle with the creation of the holy sword. However, she sets a condition. She wants to meet Julius first so that he can explain everything to her. When they arrive at Julius's house, they find him curled up on his bed in a thick blanket. He greets Hana, and she looks at him with a strange look, and he asks what happened. She points her finger at Julius and asks to make sure if he is really a great sage. He confirms and says that he has seen her before. Hana remembers how Julius used to look and says that his aura has changed since living in the royal capital. It's like two different people. Julius says that they knew each other, but at court she was brave and he was wise. Therefore, of course, their forces were connected. Hana is unhappy that Julius didn't tell her anything. He says he was just tired as he had to work a lot in the royal capital. Hana resentfully says that he should have at least warned her since he unexpectedly left the royal guild. Julius looks at her with a smile and apologizes to her. He also says he was worried about her when he left. He says that Hana used to be possessed by the spirit of heroism and continued to work for pennies. Hana blushes and tries to justify herself, saying that she could not have known that she was being used by an unscrupulous minister. She is very embarrassed and decides to change the subject, saying that she needs something from Julius. He is ready to help her and answer any of her questions, and she asks him to give her advice. Ryle tries to calm her down, saying that Julius is a great sage after all, so she has nothing to worry about. Ryle says that they have come to make a holy sword, and Julius asks if Hana is ready to use her power. She readily agrees, because she also wants to contribute to the cause. Then Julius asks if Hana can lend him the sword from her belt, since there must be a container for the spirit. Hana categorically refuses to give up her sword. Julius realizes that she got this sword from Mao. Hana remembers how Mao gave her this sword wrapped in cloth and hopes that they won't need this particular sword. Then Ryle says that he will just ask, and ragdoll another sword, and Julius agrees. After a while, Ryle brings a new sword and it is placed on the table. Julius asks if the spirit can inhabit this sword, but Hana is not sure. she decides to try the spirit in the sword. Ryle takes the sword filled with magic and gives it to Julius. He says that the sword must return to the vessel, and the light of the sword is dim enough, and the amount of spiritual power is not enough in this place. He doesn't think there's a problem with spirit transmigration. Julius says that they will probably need additional materials from the blacksmith here. He assumes that his worldview was unsatisfactory and he is going to spend more time thinking about this issue. Ryle wished they could make the holy sword quickly. However, Ellen thinks that it would be a problem if the holy sword could be made so easily, so everyone would already walk with it. Lou agrees with her. Hannah asks what she needs to do then. Ryle says he has to give her a job until Julius finds the answer, and she agrees. Hannah thinks about it and, turning away in embarrassment, says that she would like to work in a bar with Mao. After realizing what she said, she begins to justify that she did not want her words to sound so ambiguous. Ryle says that if something works out between Hannah and Mao, he will be glad. Such words only confuse Hannah more. Then Ryle suggests they go to Mao, and Hannah agrees. They say goodbye to Julius and are about to leave. Julius waves goodbye to them, and they are already walking towards the bar. On the way to Maolu, I noticed that Ryle was thinking about something. He says that the idea of making a holy sword seemed very simple to him, but it turned out to be not so simple. Lou asks if he didn't know about it from the beginning, and in that case, there's no point in thinking about it. Ryle replies that his head was only full of how to bring the brave man. He remembers Julius saying that he was worried about Hannah too, and then he says that Julius might think about it. This train of thought amuses Ellen and Lou, while Hannah hurries them along. They come to the bar together. Hannah is embarrassed and says that she is very nervous, standing in front of the entrance to the bar, and Ryle cheers her on. Hannah carefully opens the door and softly calls Mao. An unfamiliar pretty girl with demonic wings comes out to meet them and greets the newcomers with a bright smile. She is happy that a lot of customers have come to their bar. The others look at the unknown demoness in surprise. She calls Mao and says that 4 people have come to them. Mao appears from behind the kitchen and sees familiar faces. Ryle asks Mao who this girl is. He replies that this is Mirai. She recently came from the territory of demons. Mirai introduces herself with a sweet smile. She says she now works at a bar and is the best employee. Ryle calls Mao over to him and whispers to Mao, "Didn't Mirai come here to bring him back to demon territory?" Mirai calls Ryle quite perceptive. Mao doesn't care much about this, since Mirai is an excellent worker and Mao needs a workforce. Mirai also asks if the other demons will come here, since if she stays here, they will surely notice that she takes too long to return it. She snuggles up to Mao, hugging his hand and saying that she will always help the Demon King and obey him. He asks to be called Mao. Hannah, watching this, blushes and cannot utter a word. Mao suggests Mirai to work as a clerk so that she can meet guests and orient them. Ryle realizes that she clearly needs training. He was about to tell Mao that Hannah came here to work, but she interrupts him. She says she also came here for work and demands a competition. Ryle clearly does not support this idea and says that any fight is dangerous. It seems to him that Mao will judge them without any competition. However, Mao is a gambler, so he finds it interesting. He offers a standoff in customer service. Hannah agrees and Mirai agrees too because she finds it hilarious. Ryle wants to stop it, but Ellen, also a gambling addict, tells him not to worry because this game won't hurt anyone. Then Mao tells his employees that they will play customers. They don't mind, but I ask about the job, and Mao says it won't take long. He suggests starting with Mirai. She happily says she will do her best. One of the employees is sitting at the table. Mirai approaches him. She greets him sweetly, asking what he will drink. He is amazed by her beauty and sweet smile. He gently takes her hands and orders a strong liqueur, wanting to get drunk with her. His colleague slaps him on the back, asking what he is doing. He says that they swore to give all their love to the accountant and calls his friend the last cheater. The priest demands Lou to look at him with a contemptuous look, and he turns away in embarrassment, although Lou did not intend to do anything. Then he removes his colleague and sits down in his place himself, demanding that the mistress look at his real ugly personality. Mirai looks at him innocently and asks if he hates her. He immediately changes his position and says with a smile that he loves her and no one but her. Mao says that they are both just stuck in Mirai's hallucination. He explains that Mirai is a succubus who approaches and unknowingly charms. Her abilities work especially well on people who have lived a decent life, and not only that, because Mirai releases their secret desires and emotions. Ryle says it's pretty scary. Mao turns to Mirai and says that he will replace Hannah. Hannah is not against the competition, but she is concerned about the condition of the clients, who are clearly unwell. Then Mao offers to replace them with himself. He asks if she's okay with it. Hannah confusedly says that you can't treat customers like that, but in the end, she does not refuse the offer. She tries to take Mao a glass of water on a tray as a customer, but she wobbles from side to side. Ryle and Ellen note that it's pretty hard for her, but she knew what she was doing. Lou says she can understand it because everyone is nervous for the first time. Hannah doesn't understand why she's so nervous, because she understands that she's better than Mirai. She can't let you help her again. However, as soon as Mao turns to her, she cannot even look into his eyes. It is terribly embarrassing for her. Meanwhile, Mao is just thinking about what position to put her in. Hannah turns away and tries to calm down by drinking a glass of water. Ryle asks Hannah to finish this stupid game already. Mirai looks at this and an idea comes to her. Mirai uses magic. Then Hannah loses her will and immediately sits down next to Mao. The Demon King did not expect this in any way. With a blush on her face, she asks if he likes her. He looks at her without saying anything. The others also froze in anticipation. Mao replies that he likes her. His answer makes Hannah incredibly happy, and she even asks again to make sure. After that, she says that she is very happy. However, Mao says that he also likes all the lords here, and Ryle, and Ellen, and Lou. Hannah immediately stands up and says that this is not the case, and she talks about when you like it in a special way. Mao does not understand what is wrong with Hannah and why she is acting so strangely. She falls into Mao's arms and blames him for everything, calling him stupid and saying that he doesn't understand anything. Mao then realizes what has happened. He turns to Mirai, realizing that she is clearly involved in this. She replies that she is a little crazy. She tried to relax her, as Hannah was too nervous, and Mao was clearly not happy with her words. Suddenly, Hannah hugs him from behind. She tearfully asks why he is leaving and if he is uncomfortable with her. He asks Hannah to calm down because this is all just Mirai's prank and he's going to fix it now. In response, Hannah says that Mirai is more important to Mao than she is. Mao tries to calm her down with all his might. Ryle then turns to Mirai, saying that Mao is in trouble too and asks her to stop. She says there is no trouble, she just multiplied her love feelings many times over. Suddenly, Ryle is recalled by someone. Ellen turns his face towards her, standing very close to him and blushing. She complains that Lord Ryle hasn't been taking care of her at all lately. She says that no matter how strong she is, she doesn't want to be left alone. Ellen brings his face closer to hers and swears to Ryle that she will always be his faithful knight. He realizes that this is Mirai's doing again, so he pushed Ellen away, apologizing to her. He turns to Mira, asking her to stop, but she does not pay attention. Suddenly, Rila hugged Lou from behind. She confusedly says that since she met him, she has always wanted to help and support him and she can't help herself. Ryle is trying to fight off Ellen and Lou who are clinging to him, and Mirai says it looks like a lot of fun. At this moment, Nark and several other people come to the bar. Nark came to deliver the ordered goods. She asks incomprehensibly what is going on after seeing what is happening in the bar. Mirai notices new customers. She decides to bring her magic to all the visitors for fun. She tells them to free themselves and their feelings. After that, Nark attacks Ryle, asking him to compliment her. Other guests approach Ellen, saying that they love them and she is the best of them. However, she turns her back on them, saying that she likes Ryle. Then they attack Ryle for taking Ellen away from them. At this time, the Narch continues to demand that Lord Ryle pat her on the head. There are so many people attacking Ryle that he can't do anything. He demands that Mirai stop this immediately. The girl is touched by this picture and is not going to change anything. She says that everyone loves him, so why doesn't he return that love by giving them what they ask for, and everyone will be happy. Then Ryle shouts to everyone who wants something from him that whoever catches Mirai will get what he wants. Everyone is directing their angry glances at Mirai. They start chasing her, while she flies away from everyone with a playful smile, laughing at the fact that everyone is chasing her. However, she suddenly bumps into something. An embittered Mao stands in front of her. He says she's obviously overdone it. Meanwhile, Hannah was tired of crying and fell asleep with her head on the table. Mirai is clearly scared by his creepy look. After some time, everything finally got better. Mirai sincerely apologizes for her behavior, and Ryle is just glad that everything is finally over, since everyone was just inadequate. Mao demands that Mirai never do this again. Ryle is happy that Mao has fixed everything and pacified Mirai, and everything has finally returned to normal. Ryle looks at all those who clung to him under Mirai's spell. He understands that it is better to leave them alone for a while. They are all ashamed of their actions, which they committed under hypnosis. After this incident, both Hana and Mirai worked at Mao's bar, which at least Mirai is very happy about. Meanwhile, in the demon territory, in the palace, Raizen is nervously pacing around. He doesn't understand why Mirai is working so slowly or what she's doing there at all. He realizes that he can't wait any longer. Other monsters offer to send someone else to the territory of Arlance, of course not them. Raizen refuses, realizing that everything can happen again. This was the last straw, and now Raizen decides to attack the territory of Arlance. Monsters asks if something has changed, to which he replies that this time they have a huge army of demons. Many armed demons of various kinds are heading to the territory of Arlance under the command of Raizen, intending to return their king. An army of armored demons resolutely heads to the territory of Arlance, intending to win back their ruler. They leave, and a child with pointed ears looks out from around the corner. He's not sure it's okay to do that. The child walks around, realizing that there are only weak demons left in the kingdom who can't fight and newcomers like him. He walks between a huge number of garbage bags and notes that the weather there is, as expected, terrible. He knows that the demons are trying to forcibly bring back the Demon King. He begins to sort through the scattered notes and books on the floor, not understanding how anyone can work in such a mess. The child neatly stacks the folded leaves. He finds a note signed by the Demon King, which says that he has wanted to leave for a long time and hopes that his subordinates will be able to understand him. It also says that he can't help himself, so he needs time to think and take a break from everything. Meanwhile, in the large undeveloped forest in Arlance, Mao was walking alone. Suddenly, he heard some rustling in the bushes. He turns to the animal and tells it not to be afraid and to come out. An aggressive wolf stands right in front of him, growling angrily at him. Mao addresses the wild animal, saying that he has nothing to worry about because he is not going to harm it. Mao stretches out his hand to the wolf and cautiously approaches him. The wolf stops growling, raises its muzzle and sniffs at the outstretched palm. The wolf begins to calmly lick Mao's hand. The Demon King says that even in the territory of demons there are many wolves, and he even wonders how they are doing there. Mao continues stroking the wolf like a big puppy, thinking that since Mirai was sent to him from the Demon Kingdom, it means that things have been going on for a long time, but they have lasted long enough. Meanwhile, Ryle came to the bar, which Mao did not come to today. He asks why he didn't come to work and assumes that today is some kind of holiday. Hannah cleans the tables, saying that Mao was talking about going for a walk in a large undeveloped forest. Ryle realizes to himself that this is why Hannah seems so sad today. He thinks that without Mao, it somehow immediately became quieter and calmer, not even familiar, and to some extent dreary. He also understands that a large undeveloped forest is not a good place to walk. Mirai approaches Hannah, saying that she looks very lonely without Mao. She suggests creating a hallucination for Hannah where she can see Mao so that she becomes more energetic. Hannah is very embarrassed and says that she is not a wife who is waiting for her husband from the war. She tells Mirai that she is fine. Mirai continues to insist on his own. Ryle, watching them, thinks that, despite everything, Hannah and Mirai are well suited to each other. One of the bar staff turns to Ryle, asking if he can cook something, since Ryle came with a basket of food. Ryle agrees and puts the basket on the counter, thanking him. Hannah asks what Ryle is going to cook. He replies that he is cooking something for Julius, since he hardly leaves his house. Therefore, Ryle brings food for him from time to time, so that he can have a good hot meal. Ryle says he enjoys it and can also listen to different stories while eating with Julius. Then he suggests that Hannah go with him, because Julius will most likely be very happy about it. Ryle also tells the kitchen staff that they can take a little early lunch break too. They thank him, but say they don't need it yet. Ryle tells Hannah to go with him, and she agrees. When they came to Julius, they put a saucepan of warm soup and a plate of pie on the table. Hannah happily eats the soup, talking about how delicious it is, and Ryle agrees with her. He asks Julius's opinion about the food, and he also says that the food is very tasty. Ryle asks Hannah to chew her food more carefully, otherwise she might choke, and she says she already knows that. Julius looks at Hannah, who has completely stuffed her mouth with food, and says that Hannah looks very happy when she eats rice, and this is the first time he has seen her like this. Hannah hastily swallows the food and stammers, asking not to say anything so strange. Julius laughs at this, and Hannah demands that he stop laughing, since she has not yet had time to get used to everything that is here. He doesn't think so, to which Hannah says that he didn't laugh at all when he was in the royal capital. She notes that they had never eaten like this before. Julius confirms by saying that he had been busy with work all the time before. He works here too, but it's much easier for him here. Ryle realizes that they were both clearly busy with work. He says there are all kinds of people here, and he is sure that this will continue, and there will be more and more of them. He hopes that they will get to know each other better, and he wants to cherish such an exchange here. Namely, so that interpersonal relations do not concern races and wars in any way. Ryle confidently says that he sincerely wants to make the territory of Arlennes just such a place. Julius and Hannah agree with him. Suddenly, Ryle hears the scream of someone who was looking for him, and it was urgent. Ryle quickly swallows the food and goes out to the people who called him. They turn out to be Kelly and Ben. Ryle anxiously asks what happened to them. They inform their lord that a horde of demons is heading for them. This news also causes concern for Hannah and Julius. Raisin resolutely directs his army of demons, pointing to the territory of Arlennes, declaring that it is in this territory that the Demon King is located. He claims to have sent Mirai first in order to bring back the Demon King, but she never returned. From this, he deduces that something happened to the Demon King in Arlennes territory. He inspires his army, setting them up to attack Arlennes and bring back the Demon King. The demons already decide to attack at the same second, but Raisin suddenly stops them. He says he hasn't finished telling me yet. He says that there is one funny guy with red hair, but nevertheless, he is the only one who can fight them back. Raisin recalls his previous encounter with them, which did not end well for him. He says that last time there was a big hole left by his blow. He says that this time there may be a similar trap, and therefore he asks his army to be more careful when they fight. Then the warriors decide to attack the red-haired warrior first. As soon as they see it, they will be obliged to suppress it immediately. Raisin inspires his army by saying that their horde of demon territory outnumbers the enemy. The army of monsters was marching straight towards the city. There was a little fuss among them because they moved out a little earlier than they had planned. Ellen folded her hands and said that they had started to move. The guy next to her agreed. Ryle and Hannah ran up to her. They were tense. The guys asked Ellen if they were attacked by demons. The girl confirmed this and said that they were already closing in on them. Ryle asked if this was an invasion of Arlennes territory. After that, the guy said that this was not the case, and it could be that they had come to bring Mao back. Ellen was a little surprised. Ryle assumed that the demons thought they were forcibly holding Mao in this place. They have only 3 people to confront. These are Ryle, Ellen, and Hannah. He wasn't sure if they could protect Arlennes. Suddenly, the Holy Knights ran up to Ryle. They exclaimed that they had come to help. One of them said that he had previously heard that they were attacked by demons. They wanted to fight in order to defend Arlennes as knights. Suddenly, Lu came up to them and confidently said that she would also go with Ryle. The knight was as surprised as Ryle himself. The guy said worriedly that it might be too dangerous for Lu. The knight added that they both couldn't ignore it. Everyone else was still evacuating to Julius's house, and Ryle thought she should too. Lu insisted that she couldn't fight directly, but she could help them with recovery magic. The girl was extremely confident when she told Ryle that she wanted to help him all this time. Suddenly, Mirai came up to them with a big smile, who said that she would also cooperate. The guy was very surprised. Mirai said that when something interesting happens, she will always be there for you. Ryle took a deep breath and smiled. He said he was very grateful to everyone for their willingness to help. However, he added that he did not need them this time. Ryle stated that he needed Mao, and they would leave if he returned to them, and the last decision would also be for Mao. The knight said that Mao is now in a large undeveloped forest. Ryle calmly said that Julius was using his magic to bring Mao back. At this time, the Demon King was playing with wolves when he suddenly saw a bird flying towards him. Ryle wanted to bring Mao as soon as possible. He came forward and said that they would stall for time, but Mao should come as soon as possible. One of the demons turned around and called Raisin, saying that only one person had come out. Ryle loudly asked the demons to stop, saying that they were not holding the Demon King hostage. He said it was a useless conflict and they should just talk. The monsters exclaimed with one voice that this man was blatantly lying to them, and Ryle just couldn't know why they were there. They decided to go on the attack. Ryle sighed worriedly, saying that it was completely useless. Ellen came forward and said that these demons had no brains and he shouldn't worry about that. At this time, the monsters were running right at them. Several residents with guns in their hands said they would be able to stop them, and they should do so. Suddenly, Ellen came up to them and patted them on the back, saying that she could handle it on her own. They looked at her in surprise, and the girl said she just didn't want them to get hurt. Ellen said they could be sure that she was strong. The girl took out her sword and with an elegant smile declared that she could cope with them, and they only had to believe in her. Amazed by Ellen, they agreed. Ryle was worried. Ellen did not turn to him and only said that she knew about it and he should not worry because she would not overdo it. Ellen agreed that they only had 3 warriors, but she could say with certainty that she had many friends she could rely on. Ryle smiled and agreed with the girl's words. When the demons saw Ellen, they exclaimed that the red hair was here and they should act. Ellen pulled out her sword and told them not to move. The demons came out to fight, wanting to defeat her. Several demons rushed at her, saying that their strength was quite enough to simply crush her. One of the demons turned to the Demon King and asked him to see their devotion. By this point, the guys Ellen had asked to wait had joined the fight. Hannah, on the other hand, fought demons, saying that she received this sword from Mao and with it she can defeat anyone. The knights supported her, saying that if anything happened, they would cure her. Suddenly, the demons froze when they saw a small statue in the form of Mao. They were surprised that he was there. They begged him to come with them, because it is so difficult for them without him. They were glad that they had won it back. In fact, they've been worshipping a pile of manure all this time. The main demon didn't understand what was going on at all, because they used to think that of the normal fighters there were only red hair. He was confused, not understanding what was happening to their army. Suddenly, several demons fell right at his feet. Ellen came forward and asked if he was waiting for her. The girl smiled and said that he could bring at least 10 times as many soldiers, but nothing would change. Risen tensed up a lot. Other demons began to run to him, saying that he had not previously informed them that she would be so strong. They didn't know what to do next or what Raisin's plan was going to be. Suddenly, someone addressed him in a menacing tone. Mal walked behind with a confident gait. The guys were very happy when they saw that he had come. The monsters ran straight towards him, rejoicing at Mal. The little bird sat on Ryle's shoulder, and the guy was delighted, saying that he was already late. Mal walked past Ryle and said that the lords didn't have to worry anymore because he would sort everything out. Ryle was worried about Mao's condition, but he could only look after his friend. Raisin rushed to Mao and said that he looked fine, as always. The demons asked if Mao had already caught everyone himself, after which they said they had come to his aid. Raisin suggested that Mao return to the demon territory together. Raisin proudly said that they fought bravely for Mao, and since he had already defeated them all, now this is the territory of demons. He waited for the praise with a smile. With a menacing expression on his face, Mao told the demon to listen to him. He said that he would not go anywhere with them. His face looked as annoyed as possible during these words. Risen was confused and asked why he was refusing. He said that a crisis was flourishing in the demon territory and Mao should return. Mao said that their attitude towards him had not changed. He is their king, but they cannot cope without him because of laziness. They were used to him taking care of them and doing all the work, and he hoped that with his departure they would start to cherish him. If he returns now, then everything will be the same as before. Mao turned away and said that he was no longer going to be in their care because he was their king. After that, Mao quickly turned around and walked in the opposite direction, saying that the conversation was over. Risen was taken aback. Suddenly, he exclaimed loudly, asking Mao if he would really leave them so easily. At that moment, Mao stopped and looked down, and his face turned pale. The guys looked at Mao anxiously, waiting for his actions. Suddenly, Ryle remembered Mao's words that this was a good area. At that time, Mao apologized and said he couldn't be a lord there. Ryle's face was filled with worry. Mao said that those who are waiting for his return are standing behind him. Suddenly, Ryle turned to the demons and said that they could stay here and they would connect these territories. This way, Mao can remain king and lord, and they can be friends to each other. Mao turned to Ryle in amazement, but Ryle interrupted him and apologized, saying that he could not force Mao to choose them and not his people. Ryle said they were all there because they needed him. Mao looked shocked. Ryle said they weren't just fighting for a machine and they needed a king. They were coming here to bring Mao back. Ryle came forward and said that he was the lord of the Arlen's territory, and they would be able to find a solution through conversation. Suddenly, Risen exclaimed that Ryle was to blame for all this. He stated that everything was fine when the Demon King was in the demon territory, because he had not made any claims against them before. He asked how Ryle had deceived Mao. Ryle looked at them and asked if it wasn't true that they just left everything to Mao as the Demon King. Reason exclaimed that Mao had always worked hard for them, and Ryle should leave the king alone and return to the demons. Ryle says Mao really worked hard, but that doesn't mean he wasn't tired. He wanted to do the best he could, but they just started taking advantage of his kindness. Ryle says that when Mao saw himself being treated well without going to hell, he didn't want to come back. Suddenly, the demons whispered among themselves. Each of them could admit that they did only a quarter of their work, and left some of it to Mao. All they could do was reflect on Ryle's words. With a smile on his face, the guy said that this was the reason why they were all working together to prevent this from happening. This is the territory in which each of the lords puts their strength. He firmly said that there is nothing more fragile than an organization that relies on only one person. Risen thought deeply, recalling the recent battle. Ryle smiled and said he was sure things could still change if they did everything together. The demons thought about it, and Risen silently looked at Ryle. Suddenly, he asked if they could really do it. Risen said that no matter what they thought they were doing, they were enemies, and they had an agreement not to attack each other. He asked if this applied to work. Ryle smiled broadly and said they should try a little bit. The demons, one by one, started talking about how they felt they could do it. Ryle turned to Mao and said he wanted to hear from him. He suggested that Mao teach the demons to work here. Mao said that he was, of course, for this idea, but soon there would be rumors that would eventually reach the king. Then they'll have a little trouble, but Mao thinks they can handle it. Ryle asked if Mao would be able to do 2 jobs in a row, because it turns out that everything will be the same again. Mao looked at Ryle in disbelief and asked if it would be a big problem if they worked together. Ryle confidently said that this would be a new land. Mao looks at his friend with great surprise and incomprehension. Ryle said that if Mao quits his job, they should find something suitable for his abilities. Mao turned away and agreed with Ryle's words. He wondered if he should just go back and not give Ryle any more trouble. Mao walked right up to Risen and addressed him. The demon laughed awkwardly. Suddenly, Mao said that he was very sorry because he had not paid enough attention to them. To Mao's surprise, the demons started apologizing and saying that Mao was the king of demons and he was their hero. They firmly stated that they would try to work hard from now on. Mao was greatly impressed. Ryle happily turned to Mao and said that everyone was motivated, and that was just great. Mao burst into tears and covered his eyes with his hands. The Touch Demon King said that he thought he really had good subordinates. He loudly exclaimed to Ryle that he was working as a simple bartender, and he did not know what he could teach all these demons. He also didn't know how he could teach them to do what he couldn't do himself. The bird said that it was her turn. Julius asked the demons to tell him about the past work of both Mao and the demons. Based on this, he can assign them a new job that will suit the demons well. Ryle turned to Mao and asked if he could do this, because they needed assistance directly from Mao. Suddenly, Risen joined the conversation, who said that he liked it and he needed to do it right now. Ryle said with an awkward smile that all the demons seemed to agree, so he wondered what Mao was doing. The guy grinned and said that no matter what, he asked for permission to change and forgiveness. Ryle smiled with relief while the others also watched the situation with satisfaction. Suddenly, the demons said that now you can go and eat rice. They were all determined to eat well. Suddenly, Mao exclaimed to them that tomorrow, by the way, it would be very difficult. They agreed with the Demon King. Ryle was satisfied with this conclusion, and now he could turn to Julius. He asked the advisor why he took on this job this time, because it is quite difficult. Julius smiled sweetly, after which he said that he probably already knows the territories of the demons as well as the abilities of everyone, and it will be useful on both sides. Ryle smiled awkwardly and agreed with that. Suddenly, Julius asked if they would make it a place where a wide variety of races could communicate. Ryle smiled warmly. He looked at the various creatures that were in this place and gladly agreed. Someone was holding a flyer with a job vacancy in Arlens. The girl said that before she found out about this job in the market, she heard that Arlens was attacked by monsters. The girl thought that it was impossible to argue with the fact that Lord Arlenza Ryle was offering quite good conditions. She saw an item about the reconstruction of the territory. The girl thought about it and came to the conclusion that this is impossible, and it is likely that someone was just joking. She packed up her things and said that as the former maid of the Arlens Lord's family, she would never be able to leave it just like that. She took out a dagger and sternly said that if they were attacked by monsters, then her blood might be useful there. Suddenly her suitcase opened, and all the girl's things hurriedly fell to the floor. In great embarrassment, she sat down on the floor and began to collect it all. In Arlens, life was in full swing. The harvest has already begun to be harvested. The guys walked around the fields with baskets and picked tomatoes. Ryle watched this, and he could happily say that the quality of the products had improved a lot. The man next to him agreed and said that the number was not high yet. He breathed a sigh of relief and said that the demons would no longer attack them, and from now on he could work to the fullest. The man told Ryle to look forward to it. The guy smiled, thinking that the threat of demons had disappeared, and joy and security combined with smiles reappeared on the faces of the residents. The demons also assigned new jobs, which meant they had to get along with the locals. The economic situation has also improved significantly, but there is still a lot of land left. Ryle kept thinking that he needed to increase the number of people. The guy thought that they would also start making more money. He wondered if it was difficult to get a direct source of income, which is an urgent problem. In the end, Ryle decided that, as usual, he was going to Julius for a consultation. The guy went to Julius and asked if he was in the way. The consultant got tired and greeted a friend. Ryle was a little surprised that Julius had already started working. The Lord asked if Julius was working on demon territory. He replied that he had not yet. Then the hero asks the young man what he is doing now. The guy said that this is not the case, and at the moment he is looking for a new source of income. Ryle smiled awkwardly and admitted that was actually why he had come. Julius told Ryle to just find the place that the guy would care about. The Lord also asked if this was really a map of the territory of Arlens and its surroundings. He pointed to a section of the map and asked if this mountain was theirs now. I assume that this has happened since I stretched this city to the south. Ryle said that he had never been there, but he was interested in what happened to this mountain. Julius said that the mountains here have long been famous for the production of mithril, and there is a high probability that they can be extracted from this mountain. Ryle said that he had previously heard that mithril was quite expensive. Julius said that the aristocratic territory had been governing the territory solely through the production of mithril for decades. Julius says that mithril is one of the reasons why its beauty is so precious. It has a special feature, which is that it is easy to place spirits in it. Ryle listened intently. Suddenly, he exclaimed that this meant that this was the best material for the holy sword. Julius agreed with a smile. Ryle happily told his friend that he understood him, and therefore they should quickly go to this mountain for mithril. Julius noticed that it was for this reason that he wanted to clarify who owned the mountain. He said that if by chance he belongs to the aristocratic territory of the south, then a war may break out. Immediately after these words, Ryle froze. Julius said he wanted Ryle to look for documents confirming ownership of this mountain first. Ryle sighed and said he would have to do it. At this time, the maid was suspiciously looking around the city. She noticed that despite the attack of the monsters, the whole city was intact. Maybe the fact that monsters' work has a place to be, but first of all, it was different for her. She was incredibly nostalgic for Arlens. She said that even the walls in this place are beautiful. Suddenly she came to her senses and realized that it probably looked inappropriate and it was better to keep it a secret. Suddenly she noticed that someone was coming and hid. It was Ryle who was looking for documents. The girl was greatly amazed and glad when she saw him. With a loud scream, she rushed to him, which scared Ryle enough. The girl rushed to him with tears in her eyes, saying that they had not seen each other for so long. Suddenly, right in front of him, she stumbled and fell to the ground. Ryle anxiously rushed over to her and asked if she was okay. He looked very worried. When he saw the girl's face, he was surprised to recognize her as Marin. The young man did not expect to see her here in any way. After a while, the maid woke up in one of Arlens's houses. She got up and apologized, saying that she shouldn't have. Lou noticed this and noticed with a smile that Maron was awake. Lou introduced herself and handed a glass of water to the maid. After that, she said that if anything happened, Maron could call her, but now she should wait a little because she would be back soon. Marin was surprised by Ryle's words that he remembered her. The Lord came into the room and said with a smile that they really hadn't seen each other for a very long time. Marin got emotional, realizing that the real Ryle was standing in front of her. She threw herself into his arms again. The guy asked her to calm down because she might fall again. The guys began to cooperate with the demon territory, which was the biggest threat to the territory of Arlens. Thus, each of them reached a new level of development. Mao once went to the territory of the demons to organize their work. Julius travels to the royal capital to receive documents from the king confirming the rights to mining. Ryle was looking for mithril, the material for the holy sword, and he was able to find it. The hero looks forward confidently. At this time, on the territory of Arlens, the guys decided to gradually move forward and therefore asked if the others were ready. One of the knights proudly came out and asked Ryle how he felt about it. The Lord smiled sweetly and told Ragdo that it looked very good on him. Ragdo happily said that even a blacksmith would be motivated by getting such an armor. He said they should get more mithril. Ryle agreed with a smile and said that they should do their best. The guy came out and asked Ryle if they could really ride in this carriage. The young man turns in surprise towards the girl. He said that if they walked, they would get tired and they needed strength. Ryle came over and said it was a little cramped because of the large amount of cargo. He doesn't really like to travel far from home, and he thought that maybe at least a delicious meal would make the situation better. They weren't in the best of moods. The guys happily said that everything was as expected from Ryle. New armor, a carriage ride, and delicious food. They didn't know what else could be better than this. They were happy with these wonderful conditions because they would be comfortable. Ryle smiled, thinking that as a lord he could only do that. However, he was glad that they were all satisfied. He turned around and asked if they were all participants. Suddenly, someone called his name. It was Lu. It was obvious from her that she was running there. Ryle was obviously surprised to see her. The girl ran up and asked Ryle to take her to the mine. She exclaimed that she was less powerful than them, but she had read many books about mining, so she knew. If someone gets injured, she can easily heal them with magic. The girl really wanted to go with him. Ryle said with a smile that if she wanted to, they could go together. Lu was surprised by the ease of his agreement. She asked if it was true, because he had never let her go so easily before. The guy smiled and said that he was no longer going to stop her, because he already knows that she has strong feelings. Lu was surprised and blushed slightly. After that, she smiled and closed her eyes, saying that it was all very good, of course, but he shouldn't talk about it so pointedly. Ryle was somewhat taken aback. After that, the guy turned to the others and told them to all get into the carriage. The transport set off, and the people who came out to see Ryle and the others off waved and wished them luck. At the same time, the most real horrors were taking place south of the territory of Arlens. Many people were lying on the cold ground, dying of hunger and fatigue. Some of them were breaking into the gates of one large building. They all asked for the opportunity to meet with the master. They complained that they had no jobs, and therefore all the families of the city would starve to death. In the building, a young man was watching all this from the window. He turned to the Lord and said that they had already become impoverished, also saying that some more required a meeting. At this time, the man leaned with both hands on the table and said that he did not have time to listen to the stories of the lords right now. He pointed at the mine that was on the map, thinking about the mithril of this place. With a cruel grin, he said that he would become even richer, just like in the old days. The young man asked the Lord if this mountain did not belong to the territory of Arlens. The man confirmed this, but noticed that it was originally their territory. In addition, he said that the territory of Arlens was once attacked by monsters, and they clearly don't care about any mountain now when there is a war. The young man said that if you look for documents in the royal capital, you can easily see that this territory belongs to Arlens. All transactions are recorded in the royal capital. The man asked why they should not then rewrite the report directly in the royal capital. He knew a minister who was inclined to take bribes and rewrite various documents. He turned around and walked towards the exit, saying that he was going to the royal capital. He told the young man to send the lords to the mine to extract mithril, and they need to work as quickly as possible. The young man remained silent, after which he asked if Mr. Jutrid was really sure of his decision. The lord turned around and told Sebastian not to worry and left it to him. The man looked menacingly in the direction of the interlocutor. The carriage was moving slowly along the road. Helen said that they had already come a long way, but as soon as they got to the mine, looking at the map, the guy said that judging by it, they would be there by the end of the day. He was more interested in the question of what condition this mine was in. He thoughtfully said that if she was completely untouched, then the extraction of mithril would take much longer, but it is quite difficult to judge this now. Suddenly, Lu said that in the mining industry it is very difficult to dig out a deposit with the right minerals. Meanwhile, there is a lot of groundwater, gas fumes, danger of collapse, and much more. At this point, Ryle said that he was already beginning to doubt that they would be able to mine mithril on their own. Helen smiled broadly and told them not to worry, because they have something very cool. After that, she picked up a neat tool and said that they had a pickaxe with magical power. Ragdo said that Mr. Julius gave magical powers to the pickaxe he made, and now they have 3 of them. Ryle looked very happy. Helen said that it was Julius who told her to take them, because if they dig with them, then mithril will definitely be theirs. Suddenly, Lu worriedly said that Helen had drilled a large hole with an ordinary pickaxe earlier, and if she used a pickaxe with magical power, then everything could be worse. Ryle exclaimed to Helen that she was forbidden to use this pickaxe. The girl grabbed the instrument and asked what the reason was. Ryle exclaimed that she could blow up the whole mine. The unhappy girl gave the pickaxe to Ragdo. He was sorry, but it could be dangerous for everyone. Ryle thought that since they were saying that, there was nothing he could do about it. One of the guys turned to Ryle and asked how things were going with the island territories in the south, apart from all these dangers in the mines. The guy said that the mine they were targeting was located south of the island territory, and therefore he was very worried. Ryle said that his former lord's father was dealing with mines, and he didn't think he would be bad at it. However, Ryle could not deny that he had never seen the lords of those places. Wu recalled that Master Neck had told her that the lord had changed in those territories a few years ago. Ryle noted this interesting information. He said that, in any case, this mine was now located in the territories of the Arlensi. He was sure that Uslid knew this, and as long as they didn't do anything strange, then everything would be fine. Suddenly, the footman turned to the guy and said that the mine was already in their field of vision. Hearing this, Ryle was visibly pleased. They looked out and saw a large mountain in front of them. Ryle said admiringly about this mountain and how big it is. He turned to the others and said that they were already in the mine, so they should get ready to descend. The others were no less pleased and began to gather. Suddenly the horses stopped and roared loudly. The guys were startled and began to fall to the floor due to loss of balance. Ryle helped the others up and asked if everything was okay. They didn't quite understand what had happened at all. Ryle leaned out of the window and asked what had happened. There was a man running in front of them who was running away and shouting loudly that there was a monster there. Ryle was greatly surprised by the monster he saw. A large and long creature with a huge mouth at one end. The monster was growling loudly, which greatly frightened the people there. They were holding their heads, being very scared. Helen said that people are being attacked in these places. She grabbed her weapon and exclaimed that she would go there. At this time, the monster reached out with its mouth at one of the men, wanting to eat him. Suddenly, something hit him hard on the body, which is why he did not have time to do anything to that person. The monster spun around in confusion, which gave Helen enough time to do something. The monster turned on her angrily. The girl sternly noticed how thick the creature's skin was. At the same time, Ryle asked the man if he was okay, and then asked him to get into the cart as soon as possible. The man did not know who Ryle was, but he was grateful to him no less than to God. Ryle carefully watched the battle between. He couldn't even believe that Helen's punch couldn't bring down the monster. The surface of his body was like stone, and no matter what weapon Helen used, it would definitely not be easy for her. Suddenly, Ryle realized something. He rushed to Helen and told her to do it. The girl turned around and grinned, asking if he was sure of that. Helen swung the magic pickaxe hard, and then pierced the monster's head with it. Blood sprayed in all directions, after which the monster fell to the ground and died. Ryle exclaimed joyfully, while Helen looked at the pickaxe and said that it turned out to be a really great weapon. The next moment, this pickaxe fell apart into small pieces right in Helen's hands. After a while, the guys were able to sort out the fuss and came to the entrance to the cave. Ryle was glad that she was in the best condition because along the way he expected it to be much worse. He noticed that everything was quite simple there, and there was a hut. He had to say a big thank you to his father for teaching the guy a lot. At that moment, Lou came up to him and told him that they had finished treating the wounded, and it was obvious that they were from Istrid's territory. Hearing this, Ryle was surprised, after which he said that they should talk to these people. They were all very surprised when they found out that this mine no longer belongs to Lord Istrid. Ryle said it belongs to the Arlen people now. He asked if they hadn't heard anything about it from their master. The workers also said that he simply told them to go and find mithril in this mine. Ryle scratched his head and asked if they didn't know that this place belonged to them now. Helen realized that Ryle thought too much of these people. Ryle asked the workers if there were no other mines on the territory of Istrid where some mithril could be found. They also sadly said that in all other mines it has already ended, and it is for this reason that the territory is now flooded with unemployed people, because initially they all came there specifically for mithril. Helen coldly said that they were planning to invade other countries even though they had exhausted all their resources. She laughed sarcastically, saying that it was a pretty familiar story. Lou asked what they should do now. Helen said that even if they didn't know about it, they should still receive the punishment they deserved. One of the workers exclaimed that he would accept punishment, so Ryle should let the others go. After hearing this, the guys asked their boss what he was talking about because they wouldn't go anywhere without him. Ryle calmly asked if they had been mining all these years. The man was surprised by such a question, after which he said that it was true and they had been working at the mine for many years. Ryle held out his hand to him and asked with a smile, "Why don't they try to mine mithril together?" Upon hearing this, Helen was genuinely amazed. She asked Ryle to stop and asked if he was serious. The guy was perplexed and said that this was serious because they were officially qualified workers. Ryle said it was safer with them than with amateurs. Helen didn't even know what to say when the guy talked about all this. Ryle turned to the workers and said that in this case they should share with them the skills and knowledge about how they should extract mithril. He said that in return for this, they would give them half of the mithril they had obtained. The employees were very impressed by Ryle's words and asked what he was thinking at all. They couldn't just make a decision on such an important issue without even consulting his lord first. Ryle smiled and said that they shouldn't worry because he was their lord. He laughed sweetly. The man turned pale and asked if he was the Lord of Arlance. They sighed and said that they were the people of the Istrid. At that moment, one of the men's stomach rumbled violently. Ryle smiled and said that now they can have a delicious meal. The guys from Arlens were ready. Near the mountain, the guys stopped to eat. Ryle looked at how the guys from Astrid didn't eat and asked what was the matter, after which he told them to start eating quickly. They awkwardly turned to their boss. To their surprise, the man quickly tasted a small spoon, after which the others did the same. All of them were greatly delighted with the quality and taste of this wonderful food. They shouted loudly about how delicious it was, and it had been so long since they had eaten soup with such a wonderful aroma and taste. They talked about how they wanted to feed their family and children with this soup. One of them put the plate on the floor and lowered his head, after which he said that they would only be able to feed them if they got more mithril. The boss resolutely turned to the Lord of Arlance and said that he would definitely help the guy get mithril. Ryle smiled contentedly while the others watched in silence. The boss then said that mining is very hard work, and Ryle should be ready for this. The guy smiled and agreed, after which he said that they should try their best. Later, the sun rose and the day came. All the guys gathered enough equipment and went into the mine. The boss walked in front, holding up a lantern in front of him. He pointed to one of the walls, then said something. Ryle picked up the magic pickaxe and told the others about it with a smile. The guys from Istrid were surprised to see such equipment. With great enthusiasm, they broke up the rocks, wanting to get mithril. Helen and Ryle also kept up with the process. Together, they helped to bring minerals outside. The others were waiting for the guys outside. They cooked food and met new miners. After that, the boss carefully examined all the fossils for quality. Mining was in full swing, and many had been working for a long time. The guys built a bonfire and had a nice conversation next to him. At this time, one of the miners was able to do the incredible. With a neat movement, he exposed a huge amount of mithril. He shouted loudly that they had found him. Ryle was overjoyed to hear about it. A fairly large handful of the mineral lay right in front of them. Ryle summed up that mithril was lying right in front of them right now. Lou smiled extremely admiringly and said how beautiful mithril was. Ryle loudly thanked the employees of Istrid, who helped him a lot. The boss smiled and said that they were the ones who should thank Ryle for saving their lives and giving them jobs. However, this was very different from how they always worked. Everything was unusual to such an extent that at first they were a little confused. Ryle said that they should take breaks and as soon as the sun sets, finish work. The boss asked in disbelief if they all work on this principle. Ryle smiled and said that it was so, and all because that's what they value most in these possessions. Thanks to this, the boss did not get tired, did not get injured, and did not even get into accidents. He laughed out loud and said that the most important thing was that he had never enjoyed working so much. Everyone else also agreed with these words. The boss said he was very pleased to work with Ryle. He was sure that even more mithril could be mined in this mine. Ryle awkwardly asked if the boss wanted him to stay and work for them. He said it would help their future mining well if they had the same experienced people as the boss. The man smiled and said he appreciated the offer very much, but they had families in Istrid. He just couldn't leave them to continue working for Ryle. After that, the guy awkwardly said that it just happened. Ryle politely told the guys to take half of the mithril for themselves. They happily thanked him and said that now they would finally be able to feed their children. Helen said it was wonderful that he was able to get mithril, but she was interested in what he was going to do next. She said that it was quite clear that the Lord of Istrid was hunting for this place, and he clearly would not leave them alone, sending even more people to this place. Ryle agreed and said that he would like to resolve this issue as soon as possible and he wants to do it peacefully. It would be better if they arranged negotiations. Ryle caught his eye on the guys who were happy to be able to go home. He called them over and said that if they wanted to, he could take them back to the Istrid estate by carriage. Helen asked in amazement what he was doing. The employees also asked if Ryle was sure of his offer. The guy said with a smile that they would take advantage of the opportunity and go straight to the territory of Istrid. In this way, Ryle can soften his reputation well. At that time, an important meeting was taking place in the royal city. The man bowed low and told Minister Ido that they had not seen each other for a long time. He tilted his head and skeptically asked Istrid what he was doing here, because he might notice that Ido was busy. The man with a sly smile said that he had come to ask the minister for a very small favor. He said that he would very much like Ido to remove from the royal accounting books the records of the transaction with the mines that were sold to Arlens. The minister was somewhat surprised when he heard this name. After that, he stood up and said that this was the very territory where, according to rumors, the demon lord had recently been located. He personally sent one hero there but has not heard from him since. After that, he sighed and said that it was not so important. He asked if this meant that Astrid wanted to erase these records and take back the mine. The man bowed again and said that he was glad that Minister Ido was so prescient. The man grinned and said that he did not even think that Astrid would ask him about it. He said that the Istrid estate, which was considered the best in the kingdom under the previous lords, had gone a very long way in development. Looking at Istrid, who lowered his head, Minister Ido said that it was indeed a terrible sight. After that, the man got up and apologized, saying that he had forgotten one important detail of his request. He handed the minister something. The man grinned and said that the quality of this mithril was simply excellent. Istrid said that these were the jewels for which their family had become famous. They no longer have mithril, and therefore he sincerely asked Minister Ido for help with this mine. Minister Ido agreed and said that he is a principled person, and therefore he will help with this. Istrid grinned maliciously, glad that the mine now belonged to him. He clearly decided that he would do whatever it took to protect the territory of the Istrids. Ryle was thinking that it would be good if the negotiations went well. Helen didn't know if everything was going to be okay. It was pretty quiet in our lens. Suddenly, someone saw Nachi and called her name. The girl turned to the voice with interest. The guy came up to her with a smile and said that it was really her. He happily said that they had not seen each other for a long time. Nachi smiled when she saw Seth and then said that they really hadn't seen each other for a long time. She asked how their master was doing. Seth said he was not discouraged. Suddenly, he told Nachi that she should at least come to the Chamber of Commerce sometimes. She apologized and said she was so busy that she kept forgetting. Nachi spread her hands and said that she had to meet the king again, and this time with the great sage. Upon hearing this, Seth was shocked, after which he exclaimed that it was really very cool. Nachi proudly said that the great sage always relies on her. Her superiors like her so much that it just can't be any other way. She said that Nachi was a guilty traitor. Seth asked where this great sage was. At that very moment, Nachi came to her senses and was scared, not noticing Julius next to her. The guy walked through the streets and thought that it had been quite a long time since he had been in the capital. It was too crowded and tiring there, so he wanted to meet the king as soon as possible and leave there. Suddenly, he heard someone turn to Istrid and ask if he was leaving already. The man walks forward quite confidently. The man confirmed this and said that the minister would take care of the rest. Julius silently looked at the man who walked past him. In the blink of an eye, the guy's face darkened and his gaze became heavy. At the royal court at that time, someone addressed the king and said that these were the details of negotiations with the Helgen Empire. He also extended an offer from the Mizu Trading Company to pave a new road. The man thought that this was some kind of madness because he worked there all day and there was no less work. He even thought that this was some kind of conspiracy. Suddenly, the door opened, and the Lord King was told that the great sage Julius had arrived. He was told that he had come to visit the king. The king was surprised, and then told him to let Julius through. The guy came into the office and greeted me with a smile. He started shaking Julius and asking where he had been all this time, because he was very lonely without him. He asked if Julius had returned to help him with the controls. The guy was surprised, and then said that this was not the case. The king was amazed at this answer. Julius said that he had actually come in order for the king to provide a certificate of ownership of the mine, which is located in the south of the territory of Arlens. The king was surprised by such an unexpected request. He thought about it and said that he seemed to remember something about it. He clearly remembered that the hero was sent there. Julius smiled and said that the hero was already living peacefully as a joyful citizen of Arlens. Julius said he needed to check the records of interterritorial transactions right now. The king was surprised, and then agreed, saying that they would go directly to the archive, to their place of storage. Julius thanked him for his help. At that time, Minister Ido was in that place. With a grin, he thought that he had found those records of mining transactions in the territories of the Istrid and Arlens. He thought that if only he could get rid of them. Suddenly, someone asked Ido what he was doing there. The man was surprised when he noticed the king in front of him. He asked the monarch what he was doing here. Julius looked out and said that he had asked the king about it. He said he wanted to check some records for him. He smiled and told Ido that he looked great. The minister was very surprised to see Julius because he thought that the guy had already left. The guy approached the minister and noticed that he had done him a favor. He said these were the records he wanted to check. Julius looked coldly at Minister Ido and said that he seemed to have heard Istrid just now. Julius, with an obvious threat, asked if the minister had conspired with him to sue the mine on the territory of Arlens. Minister Ido turned pale and confused, thinking that Julius knew about their plan. The king turned to Ido and menacingly asked if he didn't know something. The minister became visibly nervous, after which he said that everything was fine. He tried to calm down, thinking that he had not yet done anything that could be blamed on him. He tried to calm his emotions and smiled, after which he said that he was just putting his notes in order. He awkwardly said that he hadn't done anything like that. Julius said something about doing a deal at that time. He said that if Ido even tries to encroach on this territory, then he won't let him leave there. Julius was absolutely serious, and at the same time there was a certain excitement in his eyes. He said that he was already going to expose Ido in everything that he had planned, and he should use all his powers. He fell to the floor and began to beg for forgiveness, saying that he was very sorry. Ido said it was just a passing infatuation, and he could swear that Astrid approached him himself. Julius smiled sweetly and said that he really liked Ido's honesty. He asked if the minister could tell about this case in more detail. At this time, the carriage that Ryle and the others were riding on was slowly driving along the road. The employee asked if Ryle was really going to meet my lord. Ryle smiled and told the guys not to worry because they just want to talk. Helen looked at him and said that, unfortunately, it was not up to him. The employee lowered his head rather nervously and said that, for clarity, he would note that their lord was not at all like Ryle. They said that the people have been suffering for a long time, and the lord does nothing and does not even try to listen to them. He said that this time he tricked them into going to the mines in another territory just to do the work. Under the previous lords, they had good stable jobs and decent earnings. Ryle smiled awkwardly again and said that he had heard quite a lot about this lord, and he wondered if there really were lords who didn't think so much about their subjects. With a blank expression on her face, Lu said that she was sure that there really were many such lords, simply because Ryle was special in this regard. She said she was not a lord, and the high priests did not listen to any of her wishes either. Without stopping smiling, Ryle said that she had noted it quite accurately. Helen also supported the conversation and said that the guys in the guild were exactly the same. They will take part of what they will be paid for their work, and if they get injured or get sick, they will not pay a penny of compensation. Ragdo exclaimed that everything was bad for him until he got to Erlen's. He turned to Ryle and said that they had all been treated insidiously by the high priests. Suddenly, one of them asked them to wait, after which he said that a lot of terrible things had happened to them too. One by one, they all joined the discussion. They all said that they could not rest properly, and as a result, it turned into a dispute about who suffered more. Ryle thought he didn't know how long it had been going on, but it had already turned into a competition to brag about his unhappiness. However, it wasn't so bad that people are attracted even by such care. He sighed, thinking that this was neither good nor bad. He wondered if it was true that Astrid was a bad person. After some time, the guys drove into the city of Istrid and walked through the empty streets. It was a clear day outside. Ryle said that it was somehow too empty. The man noticed that there was no job, no money, and therefore there was nothing left. At this time, a little girl hid behind one of the corners. When she saw the man, she gasped loudly. With a big smile on her face, she rushed into the man's arms. He laughed and said that he was back, after which he asked if they were happy. After the girl, more children ran there, who were very happy to see this man return. Holding the children in his arms, he showed them the mithril that he had managed to get. The workers met with their families, and they were very happy. Someone has met their lovers again, and someone is finally reunited with their family. The guys liked such a happy picture. Ryle thought that even if they didn't have jobs or money, they still had a lot of incredibly important things for them. The man turned to Ryle and said he would take him to the Lord. The guy smiled and said he would be glad. At that time, Sebastian was sitting in the office and looking at the chessboard with a rather thoughtful face. Suddenly, a guy in armor came to him and said that the miners who had been sent to my mithril had arrived. He said they were back, and with the Lord of Arlance. Hearing this, Sebastian was surprised. The guy said that the Lord wanted to talk directly with Mr. Istrid. Sebastian thought it was definitely about the mine, but he did not expect that he would notice their movements so quickly. He thought that he could very well refuse Lord Arlance and say that Master Istrid was not there at the moment. After that, he turned to the guy and agreed, saying that he would deal with it and the guards could let Lord Arlance through. The guard showed the guys in and told them that Lord Arlenza had arrived with his high-ranking delegation. Sebastian greeted them with a sweet smile at the Istrid estate. He said his name was Sebastian and he was Master Istrid's manager. The man approached Sebastian and said that they had gone to the mines to get mithril, as requested by the manager. Sebastian said they had done a great job, and Master Istrid would be extremely pleased with that. The man turned around worriedly and looked at Ryle, saying that the mine belongs to the Arlance domain. Ryle stopped him and said he'd take care of it. He came forward and smiled broadly, saying that he was glad to meet you. and he was the File of Arlance, the Lord of Arlance. Sebastian noted that it was Master Ryle, after which he said that it was a great honor for him to meet the Lord. Sebastian was surprised that Ryle was a lord because he was very young. Ryle said that they believe that an exchange was made by their past lords, and now these mines are their land. On this point, Ryle wanted to talk to Mr. Istrid to make sure of it. Sebastian smiled, noting why the guy had come all this way. He found himself thinking that he had previously thought that this person would be much more aggressive. Sebastian said that, unfortunately, Mr. Istrid is not in place right now, and therefore Ryle should come another day. Helen asked with displeasure what it meant that he wasn't there at all. She assumed Sebastian was hiding it somewhere. Sebastian said that Istrid was not there. Sebastian couldn't answer Ryle's question about where the Lord had gone, and there were no answers to the question of when he would return. Smiling insistently, he said he was sorry, and they should come another day. The young man smiles impudently. Helen got angry and asked if Sebastian understood that they were trespassing on their territory. She asked if he really thought they would retreat so easily. Ryle hesitated and said there was nothing they could do about it. Helen asked if Ryle really believed this guy's words. The Lord smiled and said that they really came quite suddenly. Sebastian thought about how Ryle didn't exactly look like a lord. At this time, the guy said that since the Lord was not there, he would turn to Sebastian. He said he had only one request. Ryle said that the extraction of mithril was successful this time, and all thanks to the miners from Istrid. He said that the mithril he sees there is the payment for all their hard work. He politely asked Sebastian to take care and fairly pay for their work. Sebastian was at a loss at the time. Ryle cared about the salaries of others more than the prosperity of his lands, and because of this, he did not understand at all what Ryle was thinking about. Sebastian said it was very interesting, but he wondered if it would be better for Ryle to worry about his own territories rather than the lands of other lords. He grinned slyly and said that otherwise they might be attacked by demons again, and then they would definitely fail completely. He expected that the Lord would definitely get angry now. He was sure that anger was the best way to reveal people's true feelings. Suddenly, in response, he heard that such provocations were pointless. He was surprised by such words. Helen proudly said that these demons would no longer scare Arlance because they have demon kings, heroes, sages, saints, and adventurers of the highest rank. Sebastian was even more startled. Ryle held out his hand and told him that next time he would invite him and the Lord to visit the lands of Arlance. He was talking about his favorite territories of Arlance. For him, it was the best and strongest territory in the world. When Sebastian heard about the Demon King, the hero, and the Great Sage, he thought that this simply could not be, but it did not look like Ryle was lying at all. He said that it was hard for him to believe it, but if it was true, then he wondered how Ryle was able to maintain order in his territory. Helen said they don't have to obey, because they all work voluntarily. Everyone wants to be close to Master Ryle, who puts his people first. They said he was nothing like Lord Astrid, who only thought of himself. Hearing this, Sebastian's expression darkened in the blink of an eye. He asked them what they could possibly understand about it. Terrifying, he said that they were the ones who hadn't worked with him for a day, and he didn't understand at all what they might know about Lord Astrid. A shiver ran down Ryle's spine. He immediately noticed that the mood had suddenly changed. Sebastian said that only Mr. Istrid could do that. Only he foresees the future, about the depletion of mithril reserves, and continues to look for new ways to survive in these territories. An attempt to grow crops that could grow in the soil on this barren land. A significant reduction in the tax rate, plans to attract and turn the area into a commercial center. Mr. Istrid thinks about this territory more than anyone else. He said that these were very good times when Mr. Istrid was full of hope. Ryle asked why, then, he wasn't listening to his people at all right now. Sebastian said that they were the ones who didn't listen to him. No matter what Master Astrid suggested, they didn't want to listen to him, saying that mithril was worth a lot more money. There was a time to take time. There was also a time to experiment. However, they destroyed the entire initiative every time. Eventually, Istrid lost all his ideas and gave up. Sebastian could only watch his master's despair in silence. The guy clenched his hand into a fist and said that he simply would not allow anyone to talk about Lord Astrid as if he were some kind of tyrant. He said it was true that he might be the only one who continued to believe in Astrid. However, he firmly believed that his master would restore these lands. He said that the best and most powerful territories of Arlance are nothing. The guys could only listen to his monologue in silence. After that, Sebastian took a deep breath and realized that he shouldn't have said all this. He said he thinks now is the time for the guys to leave. It was quite noisy in the capital at this time. One of the guards asked if a comrade had heard that Minister Ido had been taken to the dungeons. The second guard was surprised and asked what the minister had done. In response, he was told that they had obviously conspired with the Lord of Istrid to invade Arlen's territory. One of them asked if this could lead to a war between Istrid and Arlen's if they didn't handle it properly. The second agreed and said that there were even rumors that the king would personally come there. The man listening grinned, saying that he was going to pay a visit to the king, but he heard an interesting story. He thought this might be their chance to take revenge on those hated Arlen. He turned to the holy lady and said that they really needed her help, but as soon as possible. At that time, Ido was sitting in a prison cell and was very nervous. He remembered Astrid's words about the transaction records that should be erased, and wondered why he got involved in this case by contacting Astrid. He clutched his head, thinking that everything he had built had gone to waste. Suddenly, someone came up to him and said that he looked very worried. The minister raised his head and was greatly surprised when he saw the head priest in front of him. He asked the man what he was doing here. The priest said that they had heard that the minister had been captured, and they wanted to help him if Ido was okay with it. The minister jumped up and asked if it was true. The priest said that it was a pretty big risk, and therefore he needed something in return. He said he could give him the mithril that Astrid had given him. He said it was the best mithril steel, the only one of its kind. Suddenly, the priest's companion said that he would like this mithril. Ido asked who it was. The priest said that this was their new holy lady. Suddenly, Ido fell to the ground. The man was surprised that the door opened by itself. The priest said that they would agree to mithril, after which he told Minister Ido that they needed to pass. He asked them to stop and then asked how they got to this place in the first place, because there were guards everywhere. The priest and the mysterious girl didn't even turn around. A man and a woman walked confidently between the knocked-out guards. The priest said that Ido should not worry because they decided to get some sleep. He thought that the fire of the struggle between the Istrid and the Arlen was only getting hotter. He said that he only needed to make it bigger so that everything would just burn down. At this time, the territory of Istrid was quite calm. Sebastian sat silently at the table. The guy was thinking about the past, as well as about Mr. Astrid. At that time, the still young and ambitious Istrid pointed a finger at Sebastian and said that from today he would be his manager. Sebastian bowed and introduced himself, after which, according to all the rules, he said that he devoted himself entirely to the service of the Istrid. The guy waved it off and said that he didn't want anything like that at all, and he wanted to talk to Sebastian on equal terms. Astrid asked Sebastian to tell him about what the guy likes, as well as what he dislikes the most. He also asked what Sebastian wanted the most. In response to this question, Sebastian only said that he did not want anything special. Astrid tensed up and said what a blatantly weak answer it was. He said that, in that case, Sebastian could play chess with him now, or sit over there. He asked what about playing chess with him. He asked Sebastian to sit down, while the other was in a kind of stupor. Istrid asked if Sebastian had played mines before. The guy confirmed it and said it was just to understand the rules. Istrid said that people say that playing chess shows the whole essence of a person. Contrary to Istrid's expectations, Sebastian checkmated the man within a couple of minutes. Astrid got up and asked how it happened. After that, he asked if Sebastian was really one of those people who say they are not doing anything, but in fact they have prepared well. Astrid said that this is the most disgusting type of people. Sebastian noticed that he had previously thought that Astrid was talking about how weak he was. Astrid was confused and said that he shouldn't do that, using his own words against him. Sebastian said that Astrid was just afraid of losing the pieces on her board. He stated that in order to win, you need to be able to sacrifice your pieces. Istrid looked away and said he understood that, but he just didn't like doing it. Even if it's the only way to win, it's hard for him. Sebastian stared at Mr. Istrid in amazement. The guy said that, in this case, he does not advise Istrid to never play chess again, because he was not created for this at all. Astrid was startled by these words. He exclaimed so that Sebastian would not be arrogant because he had won only once, and next time the victory would be for the Istrid. Sebastian apologized and said it was impossible. Istrid screamed again, telling Sebastian not to throw around words that this was impossible. Sebastian smiled and thought about how, in the end, Mr. Istrid couldn't win no matter how hard he tried. Suddenly, Astrid came into the room with a big smile on his face and told Sebastian that he was back. Upon hearing about this, the guy immediately jumped up. He bowed to the gentleman, and Astrid said that everything would be all right now because the mine remained theirs. Sebastian said that he was very glad to hear that. He said that the miners they had sent to the mine had returned safely. Istrid was delighted and said he would check everything now. Sebastian hesitated and decided to tell Istrid something about the miner's reward. The young man looked at his master with concern. The man smiled and said that this was simply not necessary, because it was quite natural that people should work for the benefit of the land. Sebastian looked at Istrid worriedly, then agreed with him and said that in addition, while he was away, Lord Arlenza came to talk to him. Astrid was surprised and asked about it. Sebastian said that they claimed their rights to the mine, and he doesn't know at all what they should do about it. Istrid put on his coat and said that, in that case, they should come to them themselves this time. He ordered him to saddle the horses because they were going to Arlenz. Sebastian stopped him and told him that Lord Ryle Arlenz was a very dangerous opponent whose actions could not be predicted. He asked the gentleman to be as careful as possible. Istrid smiled, then turned away and told Sebastian not to worry about it and just left the case to him. It was pretty quiet in Arlenz at that time. Suddenly, a young guy on the street noticed something. He shouted loudly, calling for the others to come over there. Ryle's wagon arrived in the city. They all joyfully went to meet him, saying that the Lord and his friends had returned. Ryle came out and said with a smile that he was back. Everyone greeted him with great joy. Ryle asked if they were all right and if anything had happened during his absence. The guys asked how the districts were and if they were able to get mithril. Ryle said he would tell you soon. Ryle approached the guards and asked if Julius and Mao's group had already returned. The guys said they haven't returned yet. Ryle said that they would have to wait until Julius returned before they could think about what to do with the ice threads. Lou said that would be the smartest thing to do at the moment. Helen said that, in that case, she thought they would stay there for a while. Ryle suggested that Ragdo sort out what they already have on hand for now. He asked Ragdo if he could use this mithril for now to make a sword for the sacred swordsman. With a big smile on his face, Ragdo agreed and said that he had always wanted to make something out of mithril. They agreed and said goodbye to him. At this time, the guys started doing business. Some practiced fencing, while others worked hard. Someone was experiencing emotional heaviness due to boredom. And so that short day passed. The next day, several horses arrived in the town of Arlenza. Istrid was on one of them. The Arlenz guard held the hilt of his sword and asked who these intruders were. Istrid loudly exclaimed his name and stated that he needed to talk to their master, Ryle Arlenz. He ordered the guy to conduct them immediately. Istrid stood impressively in the middle of the room, while his subordinates were behind him. A neat monocle shone on his face as he smiled politely at his companion. Astrid said that he had previously heard that Ryle had come to visit him. The guy smiled and said that they wanted to talk about the mine, and Ryle did not expect Astrid to come to them personally. Astrid cut off Ryle's words and said that, in that case, their conversation would be short, because the mine already belongs to the Astrid. Ryle froze. He asked the guy to wait and said they had an agreement between the houses. Istrid took out some papers and said he was sorry to upset the guy. However, this is a certificate of ownership from the minister. He shoved these papers in Ryle's face and said that this mine belongs to them and it's not up for discussion. Ryle was very confused and said that this could not be true, because the mine had long been owned by the Arlen people. Astrid asked why Ryle, in that case, didn't show them something as proof. Ryle lowered his head, and Astrid said with a grin that it was quite obvious that they had nothing to show. He said that he forbids Arlen to enter the territory of this mine at any time from now on. He stated that if they violated this agreement, they would immediately regard it as an act of aggression and attack Arlenz. He turned around and said that they had already talked, so they could go back. He said they should start mining mithril immediately. Ryle hesitantly extended his hand towards the departing lord of the neighboring country and said that he only wanted to know one thing. He asked if the extracted mithril belonged to the inhabitants, as it should rightfully be. Astrid turned around and asked what this conversation was all about. Ryle said that Astrid had never behaved like this before. He said that earlier Sebastian had told him that Astrid had made various proposals to the residents of the territory on an economy independent of mithril. However, now he doesn't even listen to his people, because he despises them. Astrid turned around and asked if Sebastian had really said that. Ryle raised his hands and asked why a man was doing this at all. Istrid put his hand to his face and said that it was, of course, for the protection and prosperity of the territory. He smiled cruelly and said that he realized that for this he needed to sacrifice his pawns. He said that they see only mithril in front of them, and they deserve to be treated like mere pawns, and he shouldn't have believed in them from the very beginning. Ryle asked what was the point of defending his territory using such cruel methods. He said that in this way, Astrid would not be able to share the joys of mortal life with the residents. The guy said that, in his opinion, nothing matters to Astrid unless it's mithril. The man grabbed Ryle by his clothes and said that he couldn't even prevent the destruction of his own territories, and therefore he doesn't understand what this unfortunate guy is talking about. Helen and Lou immediately rushed to Ryle, noticing such an aggressive attitude on the part of their guest. Ryle asked them to stop and said it was all right. After that, he turned his cruel gaze on Istrid and said that the man was right, that he could not stop the destruction of Arlance, and he also said that this is exactly the reason why he knows that the Lord cannot defend his territories alone. He said he needed all the help he could get. At this time, a small bird flew to Arlance. She carried a large piece of paper in her fragile paws. Pretty quickly, the bird flew into the room, which interrupted the quarrel. Astrid was confused and released Ryle, asking what it was. The guy straightened his clothes and noted that it was Julius. The bird flew up to Ryle, after which it carefully handed him a document rolled up in a scroll. The guy quickly caught him. After that, Julius said that this was a certificate of ownership of this mine, which the king himself had made for Julius. Ryle smiled broadly and praised his friend for his excellent work. Istrid was very surprised and asked what the king meant. Julius noticed that it looked like Astrid was there too. He is sorry to report this, but everything he did with Minister Ito was revealed. Julius also said that the transactions for the mine are well documented, and they have evidence that this mine belongs to Arlance. Upon hearing this, Helen and Lou were visibly delighted. Julius said it would take a long time before he returned to them, and so he sent the document ahead of himself. At that time, he was riding in a carriage. Ryle proudly held up the document and said that it looked like everything had turned upside down, and now Mr. Astrid was in a pretty bad position. The man looked tense, not understanding if this was really the case. He thought about getting into trouble. Helen and Lou moved closer to Ryle, standing shoulder to shoulder. Ryle exclaimed that the lords didn't have any pawns and all his subordinates were friends. He said that only with friends they can go through absolutely any difficulties. He firmly said that he would defend this territory along with everyone else, and at the same time he would also not sacrifice anyone. Astrid was very angry. He thought that they were just pathetic and naive idealists. He could make fun of them in his mind at that moment. However, he also saw that Ryle had his men with him. He felt terrible because he was cornered. His face paled noticeably, and his eyes darted around the room. He realized that he was surrounded, but he thought he would come out victorious. While Ryle held the papers in front of his face, Astrid lost all strength and silently fell to the floor and lowered his head down. Istrid's soldiers were genuinely amazed by what they saw. The man said that Ryle Arlance had done a really great job. He said that the guy was able to prove his case. Astrid was still on all fours, unable to look up. He said it was all just a coincidence, and it only happened because there is a group of lords. The man slyly raised his gaze and said that Ryle was directly putting a price on them all. He looked at Ryle from under his brows and smiled. Helen asked the guy not to listen to Astrid, because he's just a loser offended by life. Ryle looked really worried about what was going on. At this time, Istrid's guards were somewhat worried. As it turned out, one of them quickly ran away from there on a horse, thinking that Mr. Astrid had lost, and he needed to tell Sebastian about it as soon as possible. Upon hearing such startling news, Sebastian was greatly alarmed. With severe shortness of breath, the guard said that the people from Arlance had revealed the whole plan, and therefore Mr. Astrid meekly surrendered. Sebastian paled, thinking that he knew about it, because Ryle Arlance doesn't just say something. He didn't know what he could do about it now. Suddenly, someone came into the room. The cloaked stranger smiled sweetly and said that Sebastian must be very worried that his lord had given up. Sebastian looked at these people in disbelief and asked who they were. The man, whose face was hidden by a mask and whose body was covered by a large black cloak, said that if Sebastian would allow, they could call themselves messengers of salvation. People who called themselves messengers of salvation asked Sebastian if he wanted to save his beloved master. After that, they told him that he needed strength for this. Sebastian looked at them in complete disbelief. One of these people reached into his raincoat and carefully took out a weapon, saying that they could well help Sebastian with his goals. The masked girl handed him a sword, on the hilt of which was attached a neat magic stone that glowed with a deep and extremely dark color. The girl told Sebastian to use this sword. Sebastian asked incredulously what it was. The man in the cloak smiled and said that it was a sacred sword, with which Sebastian would be able to capture the entire territory of Arlance. They asked him if Sebastian would take this weapon. The guy was in turmoil. He kept thinking about his master as he looked at that sword. He remembered the past. Then Istrid said that Mithril would end sooner or later and a new path was needed to preserve their possessions, but his father and the inhabitants did not seem to understand this. However, he was confident and firmly believed that there was still time, and he knew that everyone would understand him. He put down a chess piece and asked Sebastian to look there. He said that by the time he becomes a lord, he is sure that they will have a new golden age. However, his wishes did not come true. He did not understand at all why others could not understand his desire and desire to do something. He wondered why no one was even trying to listen to him. With empty eyes, Sebastian still decided to take this sword. A huge amount of dark aura gathered around him as he answered Istrid's imaginary question. He said that it was true, and he was the only one who understood him.